Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is what I'd like to call our tremendous triumvirate review, because we have got 3 reviews coming for you. 205 Live, Lucha Underground, and NXT. Because while Google may have gassed out, we never did. We're back in the saddle. We're going full throttle, and take a deep seat, because we are going to give all 3 of these shows wall-to-wall coverage. Starting with 205 Live. Brother, what did you think of the debut episode of 205 Live?
Well, I do want to give kind of a broad stroke coverage thoughts on this episode of, or all 3 of these episodes of wrestling television. 205 Live, I thought was really well done. I was a little bit, confused, apprehensive after the first match and kind of some of the stuff surrounding the first match, but the second match was great, and the third match was freaking phenomenal. And then we got to Lucha Underground, and it blew my freaking mind, as always. Lucha Underground was amazing this week. And then we got to NXT, and it was all right. It was decent. It was a little bit of a filler episode, but I'm looking forward to see where they go in the future. And that being said, I will also add that NXT tapings happened today, and I got a little bit spoiled on something that I'm extremely disappointed by that we'll talk about later.
Oh, well, you know me with NXT, and I don't even really do like this anymore, but I used to just read non-spoiler match card listings because I always loved seeing what was on tap for a show. I don't even do that anymore, but, I try and avoid spoilers from everywhere like the plague, unless it's that really rare taped Raw in the UK. But yeah, on the whole, I'd agree with your sentiments. I thought 205 Live was a great outing for the first episode, and the main event, I cannot wait to talk about the main event of 205 Live. Lot to cover there. Lucha Underground blew my damn mind, especially from a narrative perspective, because again, I think stories are their bread and butter, and there's going to be a lot to talk about there. And NXT, you know what? I actually really liked what they did, particularly in their main event. I think it created a very intriguing kind of break off in the narrative. Like, we don't really know what's going to happen with a certain character, that being Ty Dillinger, and we'll get to that. So yeah, I'd say on the whole, a productive week of wrestling, and I'm really glad that we're able to cover it, still early enough to generate interest, because, Google Hangouts no longer being a mark. So do you want to formally get into 205 Live here?
Absolutely. We start things off by finding out that WWE's 205 Live is going to have 3 commentators, not just Corey Graves and Mauro Ranallo, and that the third commentator is going to be the greatest man that ever lived himself, Austin Aries.
Yeah, and I gotta say right out of the gate, Ashton, I know some people reading preliminary reviews for 205 Live, they didn't really like the dynamic of 2 almost heel color commentators with 1 babyface in the middle. I actually thought the dynamic worked fine, and I particularly liked Aries. I will say, oftentimes you hear, oh, what does a talent do after they leave their boots in the ring? I think Aries would be a great color commentary personality. I didn't find him annoying or overbearing in his role. He seemed to kind of blend in. And yeah, I enjoyed it personally.
Dude, it's funny that we had our first big disagreement on a Q&A this past Friday, because we have a huge disagreement here. I was really annoyed by Austin Aries. I felt like Corey Graves is a very good, very natural heel color commentator, and that Austin Aries stepping in that role kind of forced Corey Graves to play more of a tweener role, and I wasn't a big fan of that because it felt inconsistent. It felt almost hypocritical for Corey Graves to get behind a guy like Rich Swann, to get behind a guy like Jack Gallagher. And Austin Aries personally annoyed the hell out of me on commentary. You had that moment in the Jack Gallagher match where he was trying to brag and talk about how, I've once gotten out of a headlock by doing a headstand, and he tripped over his words, and then he kind of did a decent job covering up for it and talking about how Jack Gallagher's got me flustered and all that kind of stuff. But I just that felt more to me like he was trying too hard to get himself over rather than worrying about getting the guys in the ring over. And in my opinion, the only real positive to this is that it means that he's most likely going to be in the cruiserweight division, and he's only going to be on commentary until he gets back from his injury. So we only have to deal with like a month or two of him.
Oh, bro, let me just say right now, as far as that last sentiment you expressed about Aries entering the Cruiserweight division, I absolutely think that's happening, and for no other reason. I mean, he explicitly said at least once or twice, maybe even 3 times throughout the episode, oh, that Cruiserweight championship, in one form or another, he said it was going to be his. So I think he is going to enter the Cruiserweight division, which, again, with how Raw's currently treating its Cruiserweights, if you're an Austin Aries fan, that could be a sign somewhat of concern, because we know that it's kind of a self-contained division, doesn't really broaden out. You know, it's kind of its own little universe. So if you want more for Austin Aries, like say U.S. champion or Universal champion, you might have to, you know, hold your tongue, because if they want him to be a cruiserweight, he may not branch out for a good while. So, I mean, I'd be curious to see what diehard Austin Aries fans, if there are any, you know, that listen to us, really think about that. But, I mean, yeah, I can appreciate what you're bringing, you know, to the table about Aries. I think, you know, as a fill-in, he didn't do too bad, but it'll be better when he can actually compete in the ring. And there are already some cruiserweight matchups that I would love to see him have. But with that said, you want to get into our first match?
Before we get into our actual review, I want to remind everybody watching to make sure that you leave a like. And if this is something that you're listening to video on demand, make sure to leave a comment as well. Tell us your thoughts, because as everyone else on the YouTube world has been saying, the new algorithm really favors quote unquote engagement, which means likes and comments. So help us out by helping us out, and we will continue right now. John, what do you think of the first match here?
You know, it wasn't bad. I mean, I gotta be honest, Harvin Gurvsira,
Oh, and actually, you know what? We're kind of jumping the gun here, because before the first match even happened, we had a pretty cool moment where we got a full rundown of the entire 205 Live roster.
Yes. This and a few other little things that 205 Live did throughout the night, like the video packages and everything, it is just one reason alone why I'm glad this show exists. Whether it's a glorified superstars or whether it can recapture the brilliance of the CWC, to me, it's not necessarily a moot point, but it's not the most important one either. To me, the most important point is that the cruiserweights get a place to actually develop, to get personalities, to foster connections, because I feel like on a 3-hour show, they do not get that opportunity. I mean, I'll share a message because I know he's here in chat. I mean, Jarveris messaged me after the first episode, and he said, I learned more about the cruiserweights in 45 minutes than I do with Raw, and they're given 3 hours. You know, and that's why I'm glad this show exists, because of things like this. You get a whole rundown of the roster, and you learn a little bit about certain people throughout the night. So I thought that was very cool.
And I do actually have notes for who we got different video packages for. We got, I think, like 3 or 4 video packages tonight. So we've definitely got quite a bit to talk about. But like I said, they ran down the whole roster. And just to go down everyone that was on the stage, we had Rich Swann, TJ Perkins, Jack Gallagher, Ho-Ho Lun, the Bollywood Boys, Herv and Gurvsira, Noam Dar, Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, Ariya Daivari, Cedric Alexander, Lindsay Dorado, Akira Tozawa, Mustafa Ali, the crown jewel of Lucha Libre, Grand Metalik, and finally, the Cruiserweight champion himself at the time, Brian Kendrick, or the Brian Kendrick.
The Brian Kendrick. Yeah, great rundown there, just to really kind of make everybody dive right in, get to know people. And then not long after that, we get our first video package kind of hyping up our first performers of the night that we're going to see, right?
Yeah, we got a Bollywood Boys video package, and really they just kind of talked about the sort of Bollywood. They said that growing up they were obsessed with 3 things, and I remember 2 of the 3, but I don't remember all 3. The 2 that I remember are hockey and Bollywood. But what was the third one, John? Do you remember?
No, honestly, I don't remember.
It was something very Canadian, and you could really tell that they were Canadian from their accents in this. It's funny because you see these guys and you expect these like sort of stereotypical Indians, and yet here they come speaking perfect fluent English with a hardcore Canadian accent, eh?
Yeah. And they go against Drew Gulak and Tony Nese. I did like the video package.
This was what I was apprehensive about, though, because not only did they go against Nese and Gulak, but they beat Nese and Gulak. What?
Yeah. Look, here's my thing, just to backtrack a little bit. I did like the video package because, again, this is a reason why I'm so glad for 205 Live's existence alone. it humanizes these competitors. It gives them depth. It makes connections, which I think are vital, especially if you're a babyface in this industry, to have any kind of success. But my thing is, and this is where my bias does come in, I never cared for these guys. Not in the CWC, not when they got squashed by the AOP in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. And while 205 Live is kind of a fresh start for these cruiserweights, and so I think the Bollywood boys, their win is kind of symbolic of that fact. Like, oh, this is a real place for all the cruiserweights. You know, everything's up for grabs. I love Gulak, man. Like, for me personally, he was the revelation of the Cruiserweight Classic, which is crazy because I know we've been watching PWG for a while and he's competed at so many shows. But I think it just took the Cruiserweight Classic for me to really open my eyes to him. And he's being used on this. And Tony Nese, who had one of the best Cruiserweight Classic tournament matches for my money against Kendrick in a tag team. Yeah. You know, it's just kind of sad. You know, like I'm such a huge fan of both of these guys, and I'm not necessarily fond of them being together, mainly because, I mean, when are they going to challenge for the tag team titles with the aforementioned problem of it being a self-contained division? And two, I think they could go so much farther in singles anyway. And then to top that off, I mean, they lose to the Bollywood boys, who, again, you know, it's cool that you want to revamp the act and get them over, but where are they going to go? What is their peak? And I'm not even talking from a personal sense, like, oh, how talented do you think this team is? I'm talking legitimately within a division. Are you going to allow them to go outside and wrestle other people even outside of their weight class? And if the answer is no, to me, that's deeply problematic because you're spinning your wheels. But I mean, they do get the win with a double super kick. Pfft, Bucks did it better. And, you know,
dude, I actually saw an article that WWE is pursuing the Young Bucks hard.
Yeah. I even tweeted last night, and I think it was Alex Calderon on Twitter. He responded to me, "Why do you make my mouth water with this?" Because Jay Lethal did an interview where he called the Young Bucks the greatest tag team of all time. And I'm like, oh, there's only one way to settle the debate. The Revival versus the Young Bucks. Make it happen. I want that match so bad. But that is not what we're talking about.
You know what, though? I don't think that match would work really well because the Young Bucks would have to be the faces in that, and they work best as cocky heels.
They do, but dude, don't you think they're the cocky heels, though, that people love to get behind anyway? So would it really matter? Like,
but
to me,
that kind of the same thing that the Revival is, honestly.
Well, don't they actually get legitimate heat, though? I've never really heard the Revival get massively cheered, unless DIY were just amazing.
They get legitimate heat from casual crowds, but casual crowds would probably hate the Young Bucks, too, because of how cocky they are.
Well, maybe we could just have one giant splooge fest and not worry about the mechanics for once, which is funny because they wanted to call themselves that. But yeah, I mean, I still want to see the match.
Oh, that's right. They wanted to. They were the mechanics for a while.
Yeah, that is true. But anyway,
like how Blake and Murphy were Team Thick for a while. I'll never forget.
Yeah, never forget. But as far as team goes, you know, the Bollywood boys do win this, and then Gulak and Nese, they get interviewed, and they're pretty much just like, "Are you kidding me? These guys are a bunch of like Bollywood jokes. You know, Bollywood is trash." And that ring, I mean, the ring was greasy. The ropes, you know, didn't even like support anything. You know, that's fine for jokes like that. But for world-class athletes like us, that ring just isn't gonna cut it. And then they leave in a huff because they lost. So yeah, good stuff here. I really do like Gulak and Nese. I hope they do better in the future. And who knows, their prospects may have improved given our main event, but we'll get to that later.
I love Gulak and Nese in the ring, but oh, that Gulak promo was brutal. Just like, where are these guys from? Bollywood? Is that even a real place? And then he just looks at the interviewer like he expects her to actually respond to him. Like, that was just rough to watch, man. And then Nese. Yeah, I mean, Nese's promo wasn't nearly as bad, but Gulak, good lord, what the hell are you doing?
See, hopefully he improves. And you know what, though? I will say this as kind of a silver lining kind of thing. Was it great? Absolutely not. But you know what? I'd rather hear a bad promo from Drew Gulak than not hear anything at all. Because the more he's given time to speak, the more I really think he can improve. I want to see them get mic time, even if my ears have to bleed.
And you know, I also do want to say, I wonder if Nese complaining about the conditions of the ring is going to play into a larger overarching storyline that ends up with them getting a different night, so that they don't have to wrestle after SmackDown goes off the air.
Maybe. You know, I mean, that I think would certainly be interesting. I think, look, if you're not going to coordinate 205 Live with SmackDown, which I know has been a complaint among, you know, some commentators, like it just makes sense to do it, and they didn't do it. But you know, if not, just give it its own isolated night, I would think. But we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, solid outing. It just kind of pains me as a Gulak and Nese fan to see this for their debut on 205 Live. But with that said, is there anything else you want to say about it?
Up next, we had a Noam Dar video package, and it was very much meant to highlight him, but it was also very much him putting himself over as much as possible. Like, he literally said he's a cool cat and he brings coolness to the ring. Like, he's a total mark for himself, and it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, you know, I mean, take it from a guy, you know, with how I talk about all my heelish acts and I lead a faction called the Scum Squad. I can appreciate a person that's a mark for themselves, because how can you be a mark for anybody else until you're a mark for yourself? But in all seriousness, I do appreciate these video packages. Again, like, I think where I'm coming from, and maybe it's just an optimistic place because I want the cruiserweights to succeed. I'm not saying everything's going to be perfect, and when it's garbage, I will tell you. Like those promos, I agree with you, from Nese and Gulak, particularly Gulak. Yeah, it was garbage. But I'm just looking for refinement. I'm looking for them to find themselves, and for 205 to find its identity. And I think, if for no other reason, these video packages are nice because it, again, makes people aware, like, okay, that's Noam Dar. Now when his music hits or I see him, I'm like, oh, that's Noam Dar, that guy from that video packages that apparently is a mark for himself. You know, so I mean, I think it does work.
That's a pretty sweet accent as well.
Exactly. There you go. So yeah, not much to say about this.
Scottish accent.
Oh, you got to. But yeah, not much to say about this. Unless you have anything to say, we can move on.
Tom Phillips had an interview with the Brian Kendrick, and Kendrick cut an amazing promo talking about how he would bet on himself and he's a gambling man and all that stuff, and it was great. I loved this promo. But then TJP showed up to suck all of the charisma out of the room.
Oh my God. I feel so sorry for Kendrick. Because save for like a few competitors, it's
because like he had so much like verbal momentum, and then TJP just removed all of it.
Hey guys, I play video games. You know that, right? Love me, love me, love me. But yeah.
And like the thing is, like you know it's on TJP because the content of his promo wasn't bad. It was the delivery that was garbage. Because he says about how like he knows that if you win tonight, that I'm gonna hunt you down and take my title back. But if you lose tonight, I might be out of the title picture for good. So I guess that means all I got to say to you is good luck. And if he would have delivered it exactly like that, it would have been better by like tenfold. But it was all awkward, and he had like weird random pauses where it seemed like he was trying to remember his lines. And at one point when he was getting ready to say good luck, he fumbled over his line where he was like, so I guess all I have to say to you is good luck. Like, oh, TJP, come on, man. You're supposed to be better than this. What the hell happened to you?
I feel like upon seeing TJ Perkins, Kendrick motioned for another ice pack to put on his back because he realized he had to still carry the program. But, you know, you could pretty much say that for most of the cruiserweight division because, honestly, I feel like Kendrick, Swann, Alexander, and maybe, you know, Gulak and Nese, when they're actually unfettered and they can do singles and do their own thing, I mean, they can really carry the division. Other people, you know, it's more touch and go. I want to like DJ Perkins. I'm still in that phase, but every time he opens his mouth, man, I lose hope. But again, much like Gulak, maybe one day he'll get better. But yeah, Kendrick is an amazing promoist. And that's another reason why I kind of, you know, I'm disappointed that the cruiserweight so far, like, this is the presentation on Raw, and maybe 205 will change that because he's so good to just merely be a cruiserweight. Like, I want to see him do it. I want to see this guy interrupt, like, Seth Rollins, of all people, and give him shit, and then they do a little something. Like, I think the world of Kendrick, and that really should be known. That's going to continue through the main event. But, yeah, his promo wasn't bad, talking about, you know, if you're a gambling man, place everything on me. You know, Mick Foley did. I do on myself, you know, being the cruiserweight champion because I am the cruiserweight division. And then TJP comes in and so, well, hey, I was the inaugural cruiserweight champion and I still want a rematch. And it's like, we know, TJ.
And I love Kendrick's reaction to that, too, because he was just like, Tom, are you trying to mess with my game tonight? Gosh.
Yeah, Kendrick, that's what makes him such a great heel, man, and we'll get to that later. Like, it just finding a way to excuse himself from what happened in the main event. I thought that was great. But yeah, TJ Perkins, good in-ring. Mike, no, I'm not buying what you're selling, bud. Anything else you want to say?
No. So
Pretty
then we
much.
had a quick little preview of Grand Metalik, and it said Grand Metalik coming soon. Even though we know he's here because he was on the stage when they introduced the roster, so we know that he is probably going to be wrestling in like 2 months. We'll see. Match number 2: Jack Gallagher versus Ariya Daivari. I know, John, you were a big fan of Daivari in the CWC, and I kind of see him as a smaller Iranian Randy Orton. Jack Gallagher is phenomenal, though, and we got to see some of his awesome, unique offense with, the arm wrench escape and the headlock escape, and he basically wrapped Ariya Daivari into a pretzel twice, once with just his arms, and then another time where he did the same thing to him that he did to Akira Tozawa in the CWC. And of course, the finish was a Gallagher drop kick into the corner for the win. So, really solid match. Commentary did a great job with this, except for Austin Aries. And I am very happy to see Gallagher finally back on WWE television.
Oh, brother, I love Jack Gallagher, and judging by our chat, I think that's a majority opinion. I actually read an interview he gave on No DQ, like excerpts from it, and he actually went out of his way and he said, I never want to work with ladders and I never want to work with tables because that stuff hurts. So I think he's the type of guy, like he is aiming for longevity. He's going to exhibit, I think, a lot of sensibility, at least gleaning from that one interview, in maybe some of his creative choices. I don't know how far that's going to get him, but I think he's incredibly talented in ring, seems to have a good head on his shoulders. Like, that's a guy that I think could really take the cruiserweight division by storm if they ever seriously decide to get behind him. I don't know if he has commitments with other organizations or if he's with WWE now to be a part of 205 Live. If it's the latter, I think it's only a matter of time before he sees that cruiserweight championship. I can't really see why he wouldn't be a future cruiserweight champion, since he seems to have such amazing packaging all around. And as far as Ariya Daivari goes, because I know a lot of people are going to give him the shaft because of Gallagher, and I can certainly understand that, I still think he's a great heel. If there's only one thing that makes me kind of sad, it's a shame that he came along in the era of Rusev, when Rusev's already doing the anti-American shtick, and so effectively too. I think Rusev has a charisma that goes underappreciated, but I could just see Daivari just cutting promos about, the U.S. wanted to take all the oil from the Middle East, but there was still enough for me to profit from it, because they mentioned on commentary how his brother's so rich and they come from a wealthy family, so he could be both elitist.
Dude, I love
and
that Lucha Underground gave Sean Daivari the rich guy gimmick, and now it's turning out that was a shoot. Like, he actually does come from a rich family that's loaded.
Yeah. I love it, man, because something, and you know what? Maybe he should just ride on that. Like, what a swerve that would be, right? Like, you hear this guy, he now resides in America, but he's formerly from some foreign place, so automatically we hate him. And instead of, like, riding on that, though, we ride on wealth inequality, which I think is becoming, if not more of a prominent issue, at least on par with, like, the xenophobia. So he could be like, oh, you probably all want me to say that America sucks, right? Boo! Well, no, wait. America's great. You know why? Because I'm rich.
Bigger boo!
Exactly. Enjoy your poverty.
We hate you because you're foreign, but I'm American. We hate you because you look foreign, but I'm American and I'm rich. But we hate you because you succeeded in a system that's built to suppress you.
White working class tears. It goes great with my martini.
And dude, you know what else I also do want to add? I loved Ariya Daivari's strikes in this. His elbows and his knee strikes I thought were very convincing. And to the trained eye, you could tell that he was actually working really light with Gallagher, even though the strikes looked really convincing to the untrained eye. I thought it was great.
Dude, that spinning like elbow he did to Gallagher before Gallagher like fired back with his momentum, that'd be a great setup move for whatever Ariya Daivari's like finisher is, because that looked awesome. I'm like, damn.
I imagine he could like do that and then hit like a big pump kick, and then like that would kind of knock the opponent loopy, and then you kick him in the gut and do some kind of like powerbomb finish to him or something.
Yeah, or maybe he could follow in his brother's footsteps. I know Daivari's finisher used to be like a DDT. If he wanted to keep it simple, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, that could
still
work.
Head based.
Definitely.
Yeah, so
the kick to the gut starts the DDT just as well as it starts a pile driver or a power bomb.
Yeah, and speaking of simplicity, that's another thing I want to praise about Gallagher. I love that his finisher really is just a really on the mark drop kick in the corner, straight in
Yeah,
the face.
dude, like right in the face, like oh my god. And you know what's really hilarious too is that during the CWC, like I would show my mom CWC matches, and she loved most of them, but she was never a fan of Gallagher because she thought he looked kind of creepy. And now all of a sudden she said like I have to be a fan of his because of how good he is.
Yeah, he's that kind of guy to me that just like within a few minutes of seeing him, if he doesn't command fandom necessarily, I think he would command respect because of how fluid and crisp he is and just like everything he does. He's wonderful. He gets the win, and there's not much more I can say than that.
Well, if that's the case, then let's move on to a Lince Dorado video package where he got to talk about how he got his name and his upbringing in the wrestling world. John, what did you think of this, considering you have a lot more background with Lince Dorado than I do?
Oh, I think he's great. The thing about him and Grand Metalik, and they'll probably get more out of Lindsay, though I read in chat that Grand Metalik is finishing up his business elsewhere. So we may get a full CMLL, so we may get a full commitment from him for 205 Live. I mean, both of these guys, I think, are going to set the world ablaze. And focusing more on Lindsay, because I know more about him, I think given the vibrancy of his attire, I think he has a charisma in a way, like he's exciting, and I think not necessarily soft-spoken, but he comes off as good-natured to me. I think it could be a really worthwhile babyface in the division. Wouldn't be surprised if he too could be a cruiserweight champion. I don't really see him as like a dominant type of cruiserweight champion like a Kendrick or maybe an Alexander, but I think he is somebody that has his place, and I would hope sees a lot of success because I think he's quite good at what he does. Really blew my mind in the Cruiserweight Classic because I hadn't seen him in years up until that point. And yeah, I think he could be very successful for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So up next, we had a Rich Swann video package, and this was very, very kind of opening, like Rich Swann opens up and kind of lets it all hang out here. Talks about how his father died when he was 12. I actually did a little more research into this. Turns out Rich Swann's father didn't just die; he was murdered when Rich Swann was 12. And then 4 years later, when he was 16, his mother did pass away, and he turned to cocaine. And it took his drug dealer being murdered for him to kind of have that like come to Jesus moment. And he decided to, turn his life around, and he turned to wrestling to help do it. So great story for Swann. Really unfortunate childhood for Swann, but it led him to this moment. So even though it was horrible that it happened, it's for the best because look where he is now.
And I'm going to say what I was going to say at the end of our discussion on the main event because it just seems more appropriate here given what you said. Like, I learned that story in the midst of the Cruiserweight Classic, which just shell-shocked me. Because, again, as I've talked about with people, in our indie fed in Jersey when it was still active for Swann, like Swann was a guy that you'd see very regularly at the shows. And he was always so kind and so gracious to me. And I remember when he turned heel, and like I was the only one still cheering for him. And it wasn't even like a Johnny Scumbag thing at the time. Like you're talking years before that. It was just because I liked him. And then when he turned babyface, because his heel turn was all an elaborate ruse to take down a heel faction, he came over to me personally and he's like, "This guy never turned on me," and he thanked me. And we just always had that bond. I haven't talked to him in so long. I've been wanting to know how he's doing. Well, he's doing pretty great, as we'll get to in a second. But I remember the last conversation I had with him while Force One was kind of winding down. And he was talking about, I'm going to compete in Japan and, do Dragon Gate and do all these places. And I just told him, go out and take it. You're amazing at what you do. And I hope to see you on TV one day. And then we get here. So like I tweeted, in the wake of his victory, to say that he deserves all the success that he has and that I'm happy for him would be an understatement, because just knowing him the little bit personally that I did, coupled with this story, yeah, elated to see him succeed. So with that, let's get to our main event. And since I just did a good bit of talking, brother, what did you think about this Cruiserweight Championship match?
Whew, brother, this was a really good match. This was an awesome match. And Brian Kendrick is the freaking king, but goddamn, Rich Swann's good, man. Like, This was one of those matches where I really did not want to see the title change hands, but Rich Swann winning, I still cheered for him. Like, I wanted Kendrick to retain because I really like the idea of having a guy that can talk and a heel be your champion for like a long run. Like, I was hoping he would hold that shit until WrestleMania and then maybe drop it to someone like Swann or Cedric Alexander or someone like that, because then you build him up, you build the division up around him, and his ability to talk can bring people in, can get people to be invested in seeing him lose. So I was really frustrated that they would take the title off of him, but goddamn, I'm just so happy for Swann.
See, and the thing is, like, and again, Swann deserves this, and on his own merits, I think he does have the making of a cruiserweight champion. But even if you put all that aside, I had a hunch a title change was going to go down because this was the premiere, and anytime a show premieres, you want to do something that pops. So to me, not and this isn't to try and discredit Swann in any way. I love the man to death, but it did seem kind of circumstantial in a way. Like, okay, these are the right actors in the right place at the right time to execute something like this. That said, fucking great match. And you guys already know how brilliant I think Swann is. So let me take this time instead to just really remark how freaking incredible Kendrick is. I didn't think I could love him anymore after his The Brian Kendrick stint, before he got released. And then the Cruiserweight Classic happens. And I just loved his in-ring psychology. I loved how he went about his matches. And then you get title defenses like this that remind you, yeah, he really is that freaking good. I mean, the moment he does the neck breaker to Swann on the metal piece that kind of, connects the turnbuckle with like the steel post and everything, and like Swann starts selling that, in conjunction with Kendrick's offense, you get a really brilliant title match. And Kendrick just working over the neck and everything, which just made Swann all the more likable babyface. Like, oh, look at him fighting through it. Let's get behind him and this and that. It was great storytelling. And you also had the story that, Swann really did seem to have Kendrick's number. So you really saw the desperation in Kendrick. Like, I've got to put him away. And then, like, when he hits the avalanche sliced bread and Swann kicks out, Kendrick almost has this look on his face.
I could not believe that Swann kicked out of that. Like, how?
Yeah. Yeah, I had the same reaction, dude. I thought he was going to get Swann off of that, and Kendrick was going to, retain the championship. But the moment Swann kicked out, I'm like, oh, no, Swann's got this in the bag. Because if he kicked out of that, that's it. And I think even Kendrick, and that's what I was getting to, like, his body language said, oh, shit, I'm losing. Like, even he knew, like, that's it. Call it a night, guys. I'm just going to use my rematch clause. And then I do love this, though, because I do feel like they protected Kendrick in a way, because it took 3 roundhouse kicks from Swann to even get Kendrick off his feet. And then that's how he beat
TJP with 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just took 1 well-placed roundhouse. And then Swann with the title. And I mean, Kevin Owens congratulated him, got a lot of congratulations from people that, were formerly on the indie scene. I was just beaming like an idiot knowing my, brief history with him. And then he thanks his mother and the crowds. And see, like, that's what I got to remark on, too. Again, not to be negative, but just to be critical and zone in on something. This is what I wish Raw would do more, because you've got a great video package from Swann where he's just talking to people and he's letting the walls down and he's letting people in on who he is. And then you go out, you have a freaking barn burner like that, which I'm sorry, since Raw at times likes to be more experimental with its hourly structures, that I would have liked for a Raw main event, because it would have been different and it would have popped and, title change. So it would have been ideal. And it's fine for 205 Live. Again, brilliant main event. But I wish Raw would do this shit more, man, because if we're still going to have to watch these guys on Raw, we need to be given stuff like this to give 205 Live momentum. I thought what they did setting this whole thing up was great, and you couldn't ask for a better heel than Kendrick. Like, everything about this to me was fantastic. And then Kendrick walking up, and Tom Phillips like, oh, Kendrick, tell us how you feel. It's just like, this show was created for me. This is all TJ Perkins' fault. He threw me off my game. And don't expect that to last. And this is where I've got to be the Debbie Downer, because as much as I love Swann, I do not think this is going to be a long reign. I think, again, it was circumstantial in that, okay, let's give him the title to really make 205 Live pop. I'd say...
So basically the post-brand split episode of Raw.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Because honestly, dude, if I'm just being realistic with everybody, would not surprise me if we saw a title change at Roadblock end of the line and Kendrick got it back.
It wouldn't surprise me if we saw a title change on Monday. with Kendrick bringing it back on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, like, again, Swann deserves it, and I'm so happy for his success. But
and you know what?
I think
I'm
it's
really glad that I remembered to bring up Monday, because I wanted to say this earlier, and I just kept on forgetting and pushing it off and pushing it off. So now I finally get to say it. 205 Live to me feels like what SmackDown was before the brand split, where it's basically you have storylines that happen on Raw, and then 205 Live is just kind of the in-between. It's the bridge from one Raw to the next for the Cruiserweight division.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
You
I
know?
certainly agree with you there. Yeah, that's all I can really say about the main event, though, and Kendrick's post-match comments. I mean, the crowd even chanted, "This is awesome" at the match. So again, if you give like an emotional atmosphere and you give the guys time, you can really create something compelling.
And that was another thing too, is like half the crowd left after SmackDown was over. So there were maybe like 40 to 60% of the people that were at SmackDown still around for 205 Live, and they didn't really care about anything early on.
Right.
But with Jack Gallagher, they kind of started to come alive a little bit. And then this match with Kendrick and Swann, they got on their feet and they were cheering and they were really loud. And it was awesome to see these guys be able to get a crowd on their feet the way they did.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want Swann's first championship in the WWE to be any other way. I was really glad to see that for him, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do high spots and low shots for this.
Oh, brother, my low shot. You know what? I'm going to say my low shot is Ariya Daivari, because if 205 Live is supposed to be a clean slate for everybody, he's still stuck in neutral, because I don't think he's gotten any wins on Raw, to my knowledge, and he's winless here too. So I'm going to say Ariya Daivari is my low shot.
Yeah. My low shot's going to be Gulak and Nese, because you literally lost to a jobber tag team.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to agree with you, given my fandom for both guys, but I mean, when you're right, you're right. Oh, God. But my high spot.
That must have felt amazing.
Yeah. My high spot, though, I got to give it to my boy. So well deserved. Swann, your new Cruiserweight champion, however long it lasts. You're talking about a guy that worked his ass off. So I'm happy to see him with that championship. Easy high spot for me. Absolutely.
Awesome. That case, then, you made my high spot extremely easy as well. Jack Gallagher, just for having an awesome showing and being the first person on this show to really get the crowd to have any kind of feelings towards anything.
Absolutely. Excellent point, partner. I completely agree. And I think that about wraps up 205 Live.
All right. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to stay here, but we're going to make a background switch to a more appropriate background. You ready for this, John?
I'm ready. Yeah, buddy.
You want to do another intro, or are we just going to get right into this shit?
Welcome to our Lucha Underground review. There's the abridged version. So yeah, now we can get into this.
Woo!
Woo, baby!
Holy hell, was this show phenomenal. Oh my God. Beginning to end, this is the worst possible show that we could have missed live reactions for.
Oh my God, dude. Let me tell you something. You'd think that not getting any Mundo follow-up given the prior week would leave me jaded, but this episode left me so breathless and wanting. I'm like, you know what? Johnny Mundo can come whenever he's ready. This was brilliant. I love this. The entire hour. And really, too.
Yeah.
And I want your in-depth remarks after I say this. But I think what really won me over with this episode, besides, everything, was was structurally. I loved that they peppered in cinematics throughout the action, because it kept me sustained, and it was a deviation, so it wasn't just like this homogenous, like one whole thing.
Yes, that made me so happy, because the last two times, really I don't know if we've ever had this before, where a match is a one show, one match kind of match. It's just one entire show dedicated to one match. And we had this much cinematic and narrative progression in the same night. Because if you think about it, the most common form of one show, one match is Aztec Warfare. We've had 3 of those so far, and we've had maybe a grand total of 2 cinematic segments throughout those 3 episodes of Lucha Underground for Aztec Warfares. All night long, I don't think we had any cinematics. And then the most recent one that I was really disappointed by was 6 to Survive, and we didn't have any cinematics in that either. So I was super like apprehensive about whether this would have any kind of cinematics in it, because when Pentagon came out first, I was like, oh, so this is going to last all show. And I was like, oh, well, I'm sure the match will be great, but I kind of wish we were getting story to this as well. And then we went to a commercial, and when we came back, we got the Catrina Jermiah thing. And I was like, oh, it's happening. Yes. And then we went right back to the ring for the second match. And it was like, yes, this is perfect. I was so happy.
I loved it too, dude. I feel like it maintained the flow. Again, it broke up. I wouldn't even call it monotony because I was enjoying the in-ring action, don't get me wrong. But again, it broke up the homogeneity by giving us different things. And I think that definitely worked to its advantage. And the gauntlet match itself, particularly the third match. Oh my God. Yes, which I know you'll probably have quite a bit to say about that. I know we both will. So do you want to just get right into this, man? Because I can barely contain myself right now.
Get right into it. I have notes, people. I have notes. Things off with Vampiro and Pentagon in the back. Vampiro kind of brushes shoulders with Pentagon and tells him about how, even though I'm not the maestro anymore, it doesn't mean that I've forgotten what you did to me.
Yeah, I love that.
This narrative is being built around Vampiro getting revenge on Pentagon Dark for what he did to him.
Yes, which I don't blame him. That was quite an ass whooping that Vampiro sustained. I wouldn't just be waking up and being like, oh, God, I guess I could forgive it. I guess I'll give him a mulligan on that one. No mulligans for you. You're going to suffer. So, yeah, I totally don't blame Vampiro whatsoever, but I love the cinematic because given what we got, you couldn't ask for a better tone setter to me for how the night was going to go. I thought it was great.
Yeah, this was a perfect way to sort of set that first domino in motion. And the chain reaction that we got was a thing of glory, because we got to the ring and we got this match underway. And the first match was Pentagon versus Doku. Doku is better known as Kairi Hojo in Stardom, which is really a promotion that I think John and I are going to have to start checking out. John, I know that you want us to kind of expand our horizons, and I know we've been talking about trying out a new all-female promotion, and I've narrowed it down to 2. I want us to either check out Stardom or Shimmer, and I think it's probably going to end up being Stardom, but I haven't decided, and I want your input, and this isn't the time for us to make the decision. But regardless, Doku means poison, and Kairi Hojo dropped one hell of a poisoned elbow on Pentagon in this match.
Oh, my God, dude. That elbow drop, it's funny because I even consulted with Cliff Amol on Twitter, who we all know is a huge Randy Savage fan. And even he said, Doku's elbow drop just really did Randy Savage justice. In fact, so much so that he asked CM Punk to apologize for his horrid elbow drop by comparison. That elbow drop is fucking gorgeous. And yeah, I really enjoyed the first match. What did you think of it?
I thought the first match was probably the weakest of the 3 matches that we got on this show, because it really didn't feel as physical or as personal. Now, that's not to say it was bad by any means, but it felt like the most slow-paced. And it's weird because of the 3 Stardom women that were in this, Kairi is the second best behind, obviously, Hitokiri, a.k.a. Io Shirai. Whereas Mayu Iwatani, who was the second match, who was what was her freaking name? Yurei, I think better than the first match. So I definitely think that even though this match was good, it was the worst of the 3. That said, though, Kairi Hojo, aka Doku, did a great job selling Pentagon's offense like it was death.
Oh, dude. I mean, first, let me just remark what a happy accident it is, unless, Lucha Underground maybe knew it was going to go that way, that the matches would get progressively better, because I agree with you. We go from the weakest to the strongest in the third match. But I loved the booking of Pentagon here, because when he says he's going to take revenge and like have a good time with it, he ain't lying. He beat the shit out of these women, and granted, he does get his comeuppance, which we'll get to. But yeah, I mean, he beat Doku down, and then when she goes for the second elbow drop, because here's the thing: when she got the first one, I popped because we've talked about Kairi Hojo's elbow drop and like how it's the best in the business and just gorgeous and could probably have beaten Pentagon. When she went to the well again, I'm like, nope, you should have pinned him. You should have pinned him. So I really thought he was going to start with a loss right away, but I'm like, no, they wouldn't do Pentagon like that, would they? And sure enough, they didn't, because she goes to the well again, and he catches her almost ZSJ style, and he breaks her arm. And I love that breaking the arm is an immediate stoppage, which shows that, while Cueto may have a hard on,
you've got to kind of appreciate the gravity of that situation. It's like, regardless of gender, regardless of size, if somebody's arm is literally broken, you have to call off the match.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do like that, because to me that is realistic. Like, who wants to see a fight with somebody with, one broken arm? I mean, I know Cueto has a hard on for violence, but
fight someone like that.
I mean, after tonight, I don't think you're wrong. Or after Wednesday, I should say, I don't think you're wrong. But yeah, I mean, great first bout. If for no other reason, it was kind of like that perfect warm up, kind of like tantalized the palate a little bit for what was to come. And yeah, Pentagon up 1-0 so far.
Yeah, and then after that, we got the awesome backstage segment that I was referring to earlier between Jermiah Crane and Catrina. And apparently, these two used to be an item.
Yes, which, I mean, what a revelation, that Jeremiah used to have a thing with Catrina, and they used to be a thing, period, which I think is a nice little wrench, because you have Ivelisse, who hates Catrina. You have her boyfriend, who she likes for reasons that, honestly, I don't really know have been made quite clear. I'd love to get Ivelisse's perspective, how she even came to know this asshole, unless... No, that can't be it. Never mind. I was going to say, I wonder if Jeremiah was sicked on Ivelisse by Catrina, but given their interaction, that doesn't seem to be the case. But man, that would be sinister even for Catrina. Like, oh yeah, take her heart and then crush it, so it's easier for me to beat her at Ultima Lucha 3. But yeah.
That would be so brutal. Oh my God.
Yeah, and honestly, if it wasn't for that interaction, but maybe just kind of like teasing it, because again, Jeremiah did look uncomfortable and almost angry, like, oh, Catrina, you will be mine. But yeah, she really just threw it in his face, like, you're in love with me, but I'm in love with somebody else. And I love that you and I had the same thought, that she's referring to Phoenix. Yes! Because fuck you, Pascual Mendoza.
That's the thing, though. Pascual Mendoza is more her slave. Like,
yes,
even though like she makes out with him, that's purely a sexual thing. That's purely like a, yeah, you won, you did my bidding, this is so hot, make out with me, or something like that. Whereas if we're talking about actual love, she is in love with Phoenix.
Yeah, and dude, what's so crazy about that?
So much to have what Phoenix offers, and she just can't have it.
Yes, and see, the thing is, dude, so let's, as far as the love thing goes, let's just connect everything together. We have Mil, who I think does love Catrina in a way, or at the very least is very possessive of her. You have Ivelisse, who's with Jeremiah, but Jeremiah has a prior history with Catrina. Catrina loves Phoenix, but as we know from the trailer, Phoenix gets in something with Melissa Santos. And how is Catrina going to react to that? Because I'm still thinking she's going to stick her nose in that shit, and that makes me feel really bad for Melissa.
Oh, God, you're so right. But, dude, I don't know. See, this is what these freaking discussions are for. And this is why I'm glad we didn't just decide to skip our reviews this week, because this is what Lucha Underground TWitWoW is all about. Because now we have not just a love triangle, but like a love hexagon. Fuck pentagon. It's not a pentagon. It's like a septagon, maybe even octagon, because Catrina loves Phoenix. Mil loves Catrina. Phoenix, later on in the season, is going to love Melissa. Melissa is being stalked by Marty. Marty's sister is very protective of him. And now, as it turns out, apparently Jeremiah has a thing with Catrina. Jeremiah also, we know, is going to end up in a feud with Mil and Cage, who we can also link to Melissa. And of course, we've got Ivelisse, just to put the cherry on top of the sundae, who is actually Jeremiah's girlfriend right now. So was that 7 or 8 people all involved in storylines with each other, whether it be, love or protective or like, there's just so much interweaving with this, and I love it. It's amazing.
And dude, like the fascinating question is, and I pose it genuinely because you and I both know that Lucha Underground has earned our trust to the point where I will wait for something to play out fully before really like giving my judgment on it, because they just have that confidence in me, whereas I'm far more cynical with the Raw product, for example. But my thing is, like, I'm just fascinated by the prospect of how they can juggle all of this, because that's a lot. Those are a lot of threads, and maybe I'm only saying it's a lot because I'm used to main roster WWE barely managing one at a time, particularly again Raw, because I am enjoying what SmackDown's doing. But like, you're talking again like 7 or 8 threads that you constructed there, and how are they going to manage it all? And when are they, like, what threads are they going to emphasize? What threads are they going to put more in the background, maybe until a later season or something? Because we know,
I think it's probably safe to say that the Phoenix Catrina thread is going to be in the background for another like good chunk of time. Probably, if I had to guess, I'd say we won't get more follow up on that for all of season 3, maybe not till season 4.
Right. And
that seems like a very like subtle, very low-key thread that it almost seems like they're trying to keep secret so that when they want to go back to that well, they can surprise people with it.
That's very true, because unless you've been following the product from the beginning, or you listen to reviews like this one to kind of supplement your knowledge, yeah, I think it would catch a lot of people off guard. And honestly, given this revelation about Catrina and Jeremiah, I'm always so close to calling her Ivelisse because there are so many names in play right now. But yeah, Catrina and Jeremiah, maybe now we figured out why Ivelisse kicks Jeremiah in that one scene in the trailer. Maybe she found out about that Vaz connection.
Yes,
like, you bastard! I'm gonna
right.
beat the shit
There
out
is
of you.
There's one scene in the trailer where Ivelisse and Jeremiah are fighting, and there's also a scene in the trailer where Jeremiah, Mil Muertes, and Cage are all in like a garage-looking area, and there's some kind of fight getting ready to break out there. So there is definitely a lot more to be seen from this story this season, and I'm at the point that I'm ready to just sit back and enjoy the freaking ride, because this is going to be awesome.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know if Jeremiah is going to enjoy it too much because he gets his face licked and then Catrina disappears and he's just left all disgruntled to end the cinematic. But I'm right with you. I'm buckling up. I'm easing the seat back and I am just going 150% full throttle with wherever this crazy fucking train is going. So with that said, is there anything else you want to say about it?
Yeah, dude. Like, the lick of death usually happens after somebody's been beaten down by Mil to kind of like steal their essence, and she licked Jeremiah without Mil's presence. Like, that's weird, isn't it?
It is. Has she ever done that to Phoenix? Because we've been talking about her in Phoenix a lot.
I don't think she's ever licked Phoenix without Mil being around.
See, because I know in the early episodes of Lucha Underground, like in season 1, she
unless you count licking the inside of his mouth because they've made out before.
Right. I know she would like lick people in the past, like in the early season 1. Like I know one time she licked Blue Demon Jr. and then another time she licked Chavo.
That's right. And it was like a taste of death, a preview for your fight with Mil Muertes, like that kind of thing.
So maybe she was giving Jeremiah a preview of something else, maybe just death, period.
No,
I don't know.
Yeah. Is Jeremiah going to end up being another character that dies?
Maybe. I mean, I'm always waiting for a character to die, you know, ever since Bailey got his face eaten off, and of course, who could forget the hilarious death of Mr. Cisco. So, you know, you never know who's going to die next, and yeah, Jeremiah's number could get called. We'll have to wait and see.
All right, well, I think we can move on to the second match of the night, which is Pentagon Dark versus Yurei, a.k.a. Mayu Iwatani, and this match kind of picked it up a notch a little bit. She is I don't remember what the exact title is, the name of the title is in Stardom, but it's something like the light speed title or the high speed title or something like that, basically like a cruiserweight title for Stardom, and Mayu Iwatani is that champion in Stardom, and she kind of showed it off here because immediately kick arm drag, you know, we had a really cool like around the head satellite style arm drag that was really cool, and eventually this got taken to the outside. She ended up using the freaking ring bell on Pentagon, although I will say, even though she kind of looked like she was trying to hit him with it, it looked really, really weak. Like she was like barely swinging. But yeah, man, this match was the first to really go all over the temple. She hit an awesome double stomp in the ring, but only got a 2 count out of it. I thought that almost might have been a finisher. And then she hit a DDT and went to the top rope. And she went to do a cannonball style senton on Pentagon, which was a huge mistake because Pentagon is apparently on that reversal game right now because he caught her in perfect position for the 3-up, 3-down driver, which he hits. And without even bothering to pin her, he goes straight for the arm break and succeeds. The match is over. Pentagon wins.
Yeah, dude, that finishing sequence made me pop so hard when you and I watched it together. I'm like, he fucking caught her and he drilled her into that mat. And then when he broke her arm, like, again, I'm just loving the storytelling that's going on while all this wrestling is occurring because, you know, he did say, I'm going to make them suffer. I'm going to break their arms. And now he's 2-0 in the gauntlet, but both of them were arm breaks. That's what I love about it. Like this whole thing that Pentagon has become known for ever since he started initially making sacrifices to his master, who we would know at the first Ultima Lucha was Vampiro. Like, yeah, that's been his thing. And you're really seeing it on display in this gauntlet. I love it, dude. I thought this outing was great.
Yeah, this was, like I said, the first match was good. This match was great. And then the third match was amazing.
Yeah. And we'll get to the third match in a moment. But didn't we have a cinematic after this as well?
Well, as a matter of fact, John, we did, and it was Matanza speaking again. Because the last time we heard him speak, he said one word, and it was war. But now we actually got like more than one word because he was miserable and punching the wall. And then Dario shows up and he's like, next week you win back your Lucha Underground Championship. And Matanza goes, no. And then Dario is just like, what? What is it that you want if you don't want to be Lucha Underground champion? Mysterio! And then we zoom out and we can see that there is a literal question mark on the wall made from the blood of Matanza's hands. So he had to punch the wall long enough to get bloody knuckles, and then he had to continue punching in a question mark pattern to make the question mark design in blood. What a freaking psychopath.
Yeah, I mean, very intimidating. And I got to say, man, seeing Matanza angry and just that whole exchange made me so nervous for Matanza because he was going to get taken to Slamtown had he not corrected Dario's erroneous thinking. Oh, you want your rematch? No, I want Rey Mysterio because that's the easier path. What a baby back. But in all sincerity,
let me ask you a question, John.
Yes.
Who would you say anyone in the temple has Johnny Mundo's number?
Oh God, that's even ludicrous to think about because you'd have to think about Johnny Mundo losing and just ew. Honestly though, I will say, and I've always given credit to this guy, Prince Puma, for sure. Like they are my fight forever pair. Like
yeah, and if there's anyone in the temple that has Prince Puma's number, who would you say that is?
Well, Johnny Mundo, you know.
What? No, that's going backwards. I was talking about Mysterio, so I was going to work into the logic there.
Oh yeah, because remember you were really hoping he'd beat Rey Mysterio at Ultima Lucha Dos, and then he lost.
Yeah, exactly. So Rey Mysterio is actually more OP than the Lucha Underground champion Johnny Mundo because it's the associative property.
Well, you know what? Fuck your associative property. But more importantly, okay?
Actually, no, it's the transitive property. I can't.
Oh my God. Nobody cares about your math right now. We probably all failed it in school anyway, you freaking nerd. But anyway, Matanza, I really did enjoy this. And you know what? Like, if Johnny Mundo and Matanza do cross paths, and I'm saying this sincerely now, like, I am intrigued by that. Because that could really go either way. Maybe Johnny Mundo, with the kind of heel he is, would find a way to survive. Maybe Mysterio would come back by then. Or maybe Matanza would slaughter him. Either way. But, you know, the idea that they're not going back to that right away, it kind of lets Mundo's title reign breathe and let us know, okay, you can look forward to really something different. Matanza's not going to be in the mix right away after his really dominant run. And now he's going to do the stuff with Mysterio, which, I mean, here's my thing. I think is great. I don't even really think that's a step backwards for Matanza. And I think the Lucha Underground Championship is obviously quite prestigious from where I sit, but it's still like a main event caliber feud for him. So it's not like this, like he's getting nerfed big time or anything in terms of like the programs he's involved in. Like, I think this is a big deal because we just even said jokingly earlier that, you know, here's a guy that main evented Ultima Lucha Dos and he won. And now Matanza's just destroyed this guy and now he's going to come back. And I've really, honestly, given the events of tonight between Matanza and what we got later, which I can't wait to talk about, this is what I've been waiting for to really get invested in the Rey Mysterio character, because now I'm curious how he's going to fit into all of this. But yeah, great cinematic, dude. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's first of all, it's crazy that Matanza is finally speaking. I guess that he's always had the ability to speak because, you know, it's not like having a god in your body takes away your vocal cords. It's just he's never felt the need to say anything until very recently, which I guess that kind of applies to Prince Puma too. He never really felt the need to say anything, but losing his mentor allowed him to find his voice, and now Matanza has found kind of sort of a voice. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, brother, it's intimidating. It's pretty horrifying.
Yeah, just a little bit, brother, just a little bit. But I don't envy Rey Mysterio. In fact, if anything, I'm kind of happy about this because when I think about oppositions to Mundo's title reign, I mean, Rey ranks high on the list, but there's no way Christopher Reeves is going to be taking that Lucha Underground Championship, which is what Rey will be when Matanza's done with him. So I think we're good here. I'm quite happy about the prospects.
A crippled joke, unbelievable.
Da-na-na-na-na-na, 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 jokes on Rey. Na-na-na-na-na. Jazz hands.
All right, so then we get to our third match of the night, which was Pentagon Dark versus Hitokiri, aka Io Shirai, which is funny because all three of these girls kind of have like mnemonic devices that you can use to remember which one's which. For example, Doku, K in there, the Doku reminds me of Kairi Hojo.
Right.
And then Yurei is the only one of the three with a Y in her name, and Mayu, she's got a Y in her real name too. And then Hitokiri, Io Shirai, it kind of rhymes a little bit, not exactly, but kind of similar. So it's pretty easy to remember which one's which. Draw like the three names on one side of a piece of paper, and then it's the real names on the other side of a piece of paper. I'd be able to connect the dots real easy.
Yeah, and brother, there's a lot I want to say about this particular gauntlet match, but I want you to go first because you were the one who were watching this together. You came out and you said, hey, this is, for me, the best women's wrestler in the world right now, and you seem like a really big fan of her, so I don't think I could do it justice initially, so I'm going to give you the reins. What did you think of this match?
Oh, this match was art. This match was friggin' phenomenal. From the entrance, because she didn't have a traditional entrance. Her music played, and as Pentagon was looking up the stairs waiting for her to show up, she got up on the turnbuckle behind him, and as he turned around, she drop kicked his ass. And really, from there, she owned Pentagon at the beginning of this match. And it makes sense because he had just gone through two brutal matches prior to this, but she destroyed Pentagon. She hit the drop kick, and that knocked Pentagon out to the outside. She had a moonsault, and then she immediately went for a chair, which she threw at Pentagon's face, and then hit him in the back, and then drove it into the back of his head, and then threw it at him again. And then she knows Lucha Underground lore because she pointed at the announce table and slammed Pentagon up against that, and then against the barricade, and then she tossed him into the wooden chairs, and then she went over and exposed the bare concrete floor by ripping the cushion mat off of it, and went to do a power slam, like a scoop slam on Pentagon onto the bare concrete floor. And Pentagon started fighting back, but she was like, bitch, you are not fighting out of this. And she punched him like 12 times and then scoop slammed his ass onto the bare concrete, which was freaking amazing. And really, she dominated the first like 7 or so minutes of this match. And eventually, she brought him back in the ring. But Pentagon, once they got back in the ring, was able to take control.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God, this match. Okay, here's what I want to say first and foremost. Regardless of what people's opinions were about this episode, which from what I saw were widely positive, I really don't think it's up to debate personally that this is how you make a mark somewhere. Like, Hitokiri alone had a career fucking night Wednesday night. Like, this is, you go in there and you tear the house down. And what really impressed me about her, and we have to keep in mind Pentagon had 2 prior matches. I understand that. I said this about Mark Henry's world title run. If you remember, this is one of the sound bites that I actually retained, when we did commentary on that run. Anybody to me can look impressive offensively. How impressive are you defensively? And Hitokiri looks like a badass all around. It's not that she could just give a beating. She can take it, because the 2 instances where Pentagon Irish whipped Hitokiri into the empty chairs, like, I'm just like, oh shit, she's fucking dead. Like, that's it. She's dead. But then she rallies back and she's fighting and fighting and fighting. And she's getting into it. Like, the one gif that I saw circulated of her kind of looking up and her sticking that tongue out she knows she's closing in on the kill. I love that her name is Hitokiri and it's translated into assassin, because just watching her match with Pentagon, I'm thinking,
dude, it's so funny too, because yes, it does loosely translate to assassin, but the literal translation is manslayer.
That's amazing. Already, given her packaging and how she went out and tore the house down, and again, knowing that she can, take a beating and endure and just give it back tenfold, I'm like, you know what? She is the only one that if hypothetically we had him around long term, like say at least from season 3 until, I don't know, the end of time, and they dissolved, like, she would be the one I'd be most excited about, because I would want her to keep her assassin character, and maybe she license herself out to silently kill people, which in the Lucha mythos could work, because we've seen death on this show. I want to see her kill people in cinematics. Now, I know that sounds really fucked up out of context, and probably in context it still does, but that's just how enthralled I was by this assassin character and its presentation. I think she's a freaking delight. I loved her. I even did a retweet when she was introducing herself. She's like, I'm Hitokiri. I'm like, yes, but we also would have accepted amazing, resplendent, brilliant, wonderful. And I went through a goddamn thesaurus describing this woman, because she blew my damn mind Wednesday. It was incredible, dude. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was awesome. And like, Pentagon was choking her with the freaking camera cable, and literally just like wrapped it around her neck and then like pulled forward with her behind his back, like hanging her, using his own shoulder as the hinge. And then like he pulled her over up against the ring post and was choking her up on that, and like nearly passed her out with that. It was ridiculous. And then again, bringing the chair into play and hit her with it a bunch of times. And then he set it up and threw her into more wooden chairs. But then eventually he charged at her like he was going to like spear her into the chair or something, and she did a drop toe hold. And that kind of reversed everything, because then she sent him back into the ring and set up for what they're now calling the Far East Destroyer, which is hilarious because it's just wherever you're from, Destroyer. But Pentagon reversed the first attempt and actually went for the 3-up, 3-down driver. But then she got out of that, kicked him in the gut again, and hit the Far East Destroyer for the win. And then Black Lotus comes out and breaks his arm.
Yeah, so just to kind of give my spin on everything that you just said. One, love that Hitokiri got the win, and it makes sense because this was Pentagon's third matchup, so it was bound to catch up to him eventually. And also, I love too, since you already mentioned the arm break, I know that I'm not jumping the gun too much, so sorry about that one. I love, especially in this third bout against Hitokiri, the kind of hubris you could see from Pentagon, because there was one image that really stuck out to me. I think it was after the second Irish whip into the chairs when he kind of folded his arms and looked like, yeah, I'll fight anybody. Yeah, I bet you will. That was kind of my thought process. Like, yeah, it must feel good, right? And I love this too, because you and I were even talking about this, which again, I'm glad that Google Hangouts has gotten its shit together today so we can do it in front of everybody here, where we said like, oh, well, Black Lotus is the worst worker of the three, because she's not as, experienced or whatever. But I love that they protect her while maintaining her own aura of badassery. Because now that Pentagon is just prone, she comes in and she picks the bones. It's not even an actual match. Poor Marty Elias gets kicked. And yeah, I did say poor Marty Elias. He's not some scrub like Rick Knox. He's actually good at his job. So I felt bad that he got caught in the line of fire. Yeah, you fucking suck, Rick. I hope you hear this. But yeah, Marty Elias, just poor guy just got kicked out of nowhere. And then Black Lotus just breaks his arm. And can I say, too, because I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this, you know that your fucking act is over and you're doing something right when the crowd wanted Pentagon to get his arm broken. They were chanting, break his arm. And these are the same people that, for as long as I can remember, have been behind Pentagon in his bloodlust and enjoy him breaking arms. But the moment they knew that the shoe could be on the other foot, given who was going to, do it to him, they were all for it, dude. I'm like, holy shit. If that is not an endorsement of the Black Lotus triad by the Temple, I don't know what is. Because I honestly couldn't believe. I know they love violence first and foremost, and I love them for that. They're all like little mini Dario Cuetos in the audience. I didn't think they'd turn on Pentagon, and it just really surprised me in a good way.
The only other thing that we forgot to mention, Hitokiri's dive off Cueto's office.
Oh my god, that was incredible. And one thing I got to mention too, because I don't want to go the whole show without mentioning it personally. I enjoyed commentary. Now, let me qualify that statement. I thought Vampiro was good all night because I loved how into the violence he was getting.
Vampiro's always good. I was even saying on Twitter earlier today, how is it that the freaking Juggalo, or at least former Juggalo, I don't know if he still is, who is all about like weirdness and darkness and the dark arts and all that creepy shit and vampires, gets feminism better than the former school teacher?
Yeah, and see, that's where I was going to qualify my statement, because Matt Striker had his cringe moments. I know PW Gregory, he mentioned this like a lot on Twitter, like a few times on Twitter, and I think you guys talked about it a little bit. Oh, I don't know if this matters, but she's the first female to die of the... Well, why mention it? You literally prefaced it by saying, I don't know why this matters. Well, then don't say it. Yeah. Everything you say on commentary should be what matters. However, because I praised him to you in conversation last night, and I'm going to stand by and I'm going to praise him here, live. What I did like about Striker was how he sold Vampiro's commentary. I love the discomfort he showed at times. Because I even joked with you.
John, I will say this. It's a lot harder to do what Vampiro was doing and acting intentionally weird and out of place and uncomfortable than it is to just do Striker and just be like, oh, well, you're kind of weird and awkward and uncomfortable. Like, he's not really doing anything special that nobody else would be able to do. Striker is just kind of reacting how a normal person would react.
And you're certainly right. Like, I do think
I want you to be the one that replaces Striker, honestly.
And it's like, I love what Vampiro did, and you're right, because Vampiro did have the harder job, but I was amused by Striker pretty much having this tone all night that said, man, I was a school teacher, man. I don't know this shit, man. I just want to do my job. Like, he would just seem like so at any point that Vampiro was just going to look at him.
This reminds me of South Park Carlos Mencia. Come on, man. Just get it, man.
I ain't got no dick, man. I got no dick. I just wanted Vampiro to just look at Matt with like that bloodlust and like I'm gonna rip his throat out simply because I can kind of look, and Matt to just be like, well, folks, I just peed a little, and with that, good night. And that would be that, because he was so uncomfortable the entire hour, it seemed. And yeah, that's because Vampiro.
And we still haven't. Speaking of Vampiro, we still haven't touched on some of the sounds he was making during the Hitokiri Pentagon match when Hitokiri was getting offense on Pentagon and beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Like, straight up orgasm, like, oh.
Vinegar strokes. For those of you who are fans of the league, straight up vinegar strokes. If that man did not like just splooge right at the announce desk, I'd be shocked, because he was.
And especially when Black Lotus did come out and break Pentagon's arm, because that was like the ultimate, finally revenge kind of moment for Vamp,
And can I mention, it seems like we had all this like pent up discussion and we're just letting it all out, because another thing I want to mention too, even though it's kind of volleying all the way to the other side and away from commentary, I loved the imagery of the first arm break, because you have the two Doku and Yurei just holding their arms, and Hitokiri just kind of looking down. They're all looking down at him, and he's just trying to like, no, the arm break straight out of a fucking horror film. Like, I'm not gonna say Children of the Corn, because these are fully grown, like, badass fucking women, but like, it had an eerie feel to it, because these women had their arms broken. Hitokiri got the job done, and they're just like, do it. And then Black Lotus does it, and it's just like, shit. And then for Pentagon Dark, anyway, it gets even worse, because then El Dragon Azteca Jr. comes out, and partner, if I may, I'll just continue my turn, because you know this is what fascinated me the most. He comes out, Black Lotus and the rest of the Triad, they lock eyes with him. They give him the ring. He takes the other arm, the good arm, and he says in Spanish, which we see in subtitles in English, "This is my vengeance." Now, vengeance is a word that we've seen a lot with El Dragon Azteca Jr. We always talk about little things, which I know, Ashton, you picked up on a little thing in our last cinematic, and I'll give that to you in a second. But I noticed, like, vengeance, I think, is a word that's come up a lot with El Dragon Azteca Jr., even in the comics. We've heard him talk about vengeance. So that's been kind of a central theme with him. And he breaks Pentagon Dark's other arm. Now, for one thing, you and I have been talking about El Dragon Azteca Jr. for a while. And you know, I was always the one that really emphasized, I do think he's going to go down the path of vengeance. And I don't think that's going to sit well with Rey. Well, you have to imagine now, Rey has got Matanza breathing down his neck. With that, which that alone should just make you contemplate giving up on life, or else he's just going to force you to. But then when you realize, oh, no, not only do I have this, you know, God inside of a human vessel wanting to dismember me, my own pupil has gone astray and he's indulging in darkness by breaking a defenseless man's arm. Like, Rey is not going to be cool with that at all. And how is he going to juggle both of these, you know, struggles that he is now dealing with? Like, I love that this is another layer. And again, this is what I've been waiting for. I didn't give one iota of a shit, if I'm being honest, about anything Rey was doing with Chavo. That, to me, so far, because we still got plenty of episodes left, was kind of a weak point for me personally in the season. Not to even say that was done bad, just not my cup of tea. But this shit, I am all in on this shit. Knowing that El Dragon Azteca Jr. may be taking a walk on the dark side, you know, breaking a defenseless man's arm, even if that man is Pentagon Dark, and knowing Rey has to face Matanza at the same time down the road, that to me is compelling. And El Dragon Azteca Jr. as a character, also compelling for the same reasons. So yeah, dude, I love this. I mean, any thoughts on this?
I love El Dragon Azteca Jr. coming down and taking the path of vengeance, you know, like this was a defining character moment for him, because this was the moment where he got to decide, do I take the path of Rey Mysterio and choose to be the peacekeeper, or do I take the path of a Dario Cueto and a Matanza and choose the path of revenge seeker? And he chose that path, and that is the dark path. And I don't know if Rey is going to know what to do with him at this point. I don't think that a simple, oh, you know, slap on the wrist, you did naughty things kind of thing. I think it's going to have to be bigger than that, because if Rey does try and just, you know, you shouldn't have done that, you know, he didn't deserve that. There's a difference between justice and vengeance. We need to keep the peace. We need to, you know, we have a goal. We need to keep our minds and our eyes set on that goal, and breaking Pentagon's arm didn't have anything to do with it. And you know, you just made an unnecessary enemy and all that stuff. It's not going to be enough. You know, a simple preach or a simple, you know, lecture isn't going to be enough to change El Dragon Azteca's mind, to change the path that he's chosen. You know what I mean?
And you know, dude, like, one thing that I want to touch on, and maybe this is kind of a reach on my part, but again, this is what Lucha Underground TWitWoW is for. We have discussions like this. One thing I've noticed with Lucha Underground, albeit perhaps loosely, is that it is a place, I guess, because of its riches and its allure, whether you're talking mythologically or otherwise, it has a corruptible tendency. Johnny Mundo turned heel. Prince Puma, we'll get to that in a second. I want you to take the floor on that, because you know, Prince Puma is your guy. Now El Dragon Azteca Jr. What I'm getting at is, will Rey have to indulge in the darkness himself to save El Dragon Azteca Jr. from the darkness? Is Rey going to be corrupted? Because that would be bold. You're talking about a guy in Rey who, I know he's been heel before, but I think that was like WCW, like years and years ago. He's almost like, what's that? Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and that, like, he's just this guy that's synonymous with being good. I don't think anybody can really conceptualize of him otherwise. And if Lucha Underground would pull that trigger where maybe one day he gets corrupted for some reason, even if it's for initially a noble cause, Like, that to me could be fascinating. See, this is what I'm talking about now, about being reinvested in Rey Mysterio, because now the question really becomes, because I agree with you, it's not going to be moral proselytizing anymore of, oh, that's not what our mentor, wanted. We got to do this and that. No, Rey, how far are you willing to go to truly and sincerely save El Dragon Azteca Jr.? And the other question becomes, how far is too far? And I definitely think that's a question that Lucha Underground is going to be playing a lot with the right character, or so I hope, because to me, that would make him the most interesting he's ever been since I knew of him, which, again, given my timeline, would be 2002. So all the years I've been watching him, this would be where he'd be the most interesting for me, narratively speaking. Good stuff.
Yeah. And as far as Pentagon's character goes, he was completely protected tonight because this is a gauntlet match. He pretty well obliterated Kairi Hojo, who is one of the most prestigious women in the world. He got taken to by Mayu Iwatani, but he still ended up having a great reversal to beat her, broke her arm. One hell of a match with Io Shirai where they really did. It was 50-50. And that was after having already been through two super badass women who he beat. And then he gets into a match with Io Shirai, and she is literally the best female wrestler on the planet right now. And one of the top 10 to 15 wrestlers, regardless of gender right now. And he ends up losing. But why did he lose? Because of exhaustion, because it got to him, and because he was facing one of the best wrestlers on the planet. So Pentagon was perfectly well protected. I don't have any problem with him losing. And then the double arm break at the end, what is that going to do for Pentagon's character? Sympathy. Something that he, as this sort of badass, arm-breaking, violent heel, has never had before. Pentagon's character up until right now was a tweener. And now I think we can finally kind of say that he is more of a babyface leaning tweener, if not full-blown babyface. And the crowd cheering for him can actually line up with what he's supposed to be doing.
Oh, dude, really, and I would say this to all Pentagon Dark fans, of which I count myself and you among them. He might have gotten the best deal out of this, and I know that's crazy given a guy that got both of his arms broken, but to me, you should have seen the discussion I was saying on Twitter about him, because one person even mused, well, is he going to come back with his own clan now so that he can, neutralize the numbers game or whatever?
No.
This gives me...
I am not buying into the idea of multiple Pentagons again. We went through that all last season.
I agree. I'm with you. But my point is, I love the clean slate that this has given him, because it kind of reminds me of very sincere words that Seth Rollins spoke when he got legitimately injured. It's only when a man has lost everything that he's free to do anything. And now that Pentagon has lost both of his arms, the same tools that he used to take the arms of others, that's some profound shit right there, man. That doesn't give you an existential crisis. I don't know what does. And how Pentagon responds to this crisis, how he comes back in the face of this, that to me, I think has me licking my lips most of all. Just how are you going to return? How are you going to take care of it? And this is a guy that people, and let me just say this too, and this is why Lucha Underground works, and this is why I love their storytelling, because this is a guy, Ashton, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, because I can't imagine that our neck of the woods are that much different, where I see my wrestling and you see yours, where people are still clamoring for him to be Lucha Underground champion. But I'm sitting here now that's great and all, no doubt about that. But his stories to me, his revenge right now is looking more prestigious than the Lucha Underground Championship, at least for him. Because Lucha Underground Championship is wonderful, but you're talking about people now that have taken his livelihood, that have taken really his very identity and what he's about.
Right.
So now he has to go and get his revenge. And to me, I find that to be, for him personally, a more worthwhile pursuit than Aztec Gold. There will always be Aztec Gold, but revenge, it's personal, it's dynamic, it comes alive, and I'm loving the stories that Pentagon has gotten. I'd still say, behind Johnny Mundo, really Pentagon, when he gets stories like this, he is my favorite luchador in the temple, and yeah, I can't wait to see what he does next. This was amazing.
Yeah, man, and the thing is, even if you don't want to see Pentagon as a sympathetic figure, this gives Lucha Underground a chance to have him return with a purpose. Because really, if you think about it, his sole goal his entire time in Lucha Underground has been the Lucha Underground World Championship. And I don't think that's going to change. But the difference is the last time that we saw him have like this big return, it's going to be last time it was as Pentagon Dark. And really it was all Vampiro's doing. It wasn't Pentagon's decision to do everything that he did to become Pentagon Dark. That was all Vampiro. So now it's like we've got a sentient being broken and really hitting rock bottom, and we need to figure out how this guy is going to handle this adversity.
And yeah, and I mean, I don't want to forgive me, dude, because I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think you know that I've always found Pentagon to be one of the most fascinating characters in the Temple, and like I kind of laugh when people are like, oh, he's supposed to be such a badass character, because in a way they're not wrong. But to me, centrally, I've always found Pentagon to be a tragic character. Because even if you read, now I'm not going to go back over his entire history. We don't have time for that. But what I will say is,
well, no, but even just in the first like dozen episodes of season 1, you can clearly tell that he like one of the first promos he ever cut, he said that he wanted to find a partner to kind of rule the temple with. And he thought that he had that in Chavo, and then Chavo turned on him. And that was when he turned to his maestro, Vampiro.
And I was going to say, and this is why I always encourage everybody, virtually every time we talk about Lucha, read the comics, because the Pentagon Vampiro comic was so illuminating, because their first meeting, Vampiro, I think, pretty much says something to the effect of like, oh, I'll grant you what you want. You know, you want power, you want to be successful, I can take you there. And he caught Pentagon at a time when he was very vulnerable and prone to, you know, the manipulation and the dark forces that Vampiro exhibits, you know, and that's the thing. I've always found Pentagon more than a badass, definitely a very tragic and flawed character. So do I think sympathy can work? Absolutely, because I think sympathy's been at play the entire time. I don't think people scrutinize it enough. And that's why I love the Pentagon character, because there are these layers here. Yeah, you see him do zero, mierda, and, you know, breaking the arms and all, and that's great. But underneath, this is a guy that I think has a lot of inner turmoil, is very tragic, is very, you know, broken, you know, to use the term properly. I don't want to get into that broken Matt Hardy crap. And, you know, is a guy that I think, I wouldn't necessarily say he's trying to find inner peace, but he's just trying to find something. And he thought he had it with Vampiro. Then he turned on Vampiro, probably because he was, you know, very corrupted from the trials that Vampiro put him through. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just loving watching his journey. I do think now we can, you know, take a few steps back and really get the sympathy back at the forefront, which could be, you know, really, again, fascinating to me. And, yeah, Pentagon is just tops, dude. I fucking love the guy. He's great.
Exactly. All right, so after the double arm break special, we had one more cinematic to close the night out, and sort of a dark altar. We see candles, and we see an open coffin that Prince Puma not only is lying in, but that he awakes in.
Yes.
And he wakes up, and the first thing that he sees is a creepy ass Vampiro with creepy ass makeup on. It's all white, and he's got super dark black around his mouth, nose, and eyes. And it's just beyond horrifying, like serious nightmare fuel. Says those magical 3 words that have so much meaning around lore.
Yes. Brother, I'm going to let you take the reins on this one as promised, because I talked at length about Pentagon, now Dragon Azteca Jr. What did you think of this cinematic? And you can enlighten people about, you know, the findings that you had, or the realizations that you had about the whole come with me and everything, because I think you explained it somewhat on your Twitter. But yeah, man, I mean, floor's yours.
Well, if I remember correctly, come with me were actually the first 3 words that we heard an on-screen character say on the entire Lucha Underground series, because the beginning of season 1, episode 1, we saw a guy in a white hoodie getting beat down by a couple thugs in the street, and then a guy in a green mask shows up, whips their asses with some badass lucha libre skills, and then reaches his hand out to the white hoodie guy and says, "Come with me." And as it turns out, those two would turn out to be El Dragon Azteca and El Dragon Azteca Jr. And
Yes.
then later on in the season, we saw Black Lotus trying to kill Matanza in his cage, and she got abducted. Someone put a bag over her head and put her in the trunk of a car. And when that car came to a stop and the trunk opened back up, who do we see? The same guy that we saw at the beginning of the series in the green mask, El Dragon Azteca. And what did he say? "Come with me." And then at the end of season 1, we had Black Lotus yet again locked up in a cage. Dario Cueto, after she killed El Dragon Azteca, realizes, well, son of a bitch, you just started a war. We've got to get the hell out of here. And he unlocks her cage, and she says, "I'm going to leave." And he says, "No, no, 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 no. Come with me." So this is, at the very least, this is the 4th time that we have heard those words. And every time it has had huge impact, because the first time it was the introduction of the El Dragon Azteca Jr. character to the Lucha Underground universe. The second time, it was Black Lotus being not only trained, but also informed of the atrocities committed against her family by Matanza and what the Cuetos are all about. The third time was Black Lotus's sort of official heel turn and her deciding to go with Dario Cueto to what we kind of assumed at the time was Phoenix because of the amount of miles away from Boyles Heights it ended up being. And then this time we've got big old Vampiro with his creepy ass face paint on telling Prince Puma to come with me. And you can interpret that many ways, but I think the easiest way to interpret it is come with me into the dark.
Yes. Yes. Now, let me ask you, I mean, you are by and far, the bigger Prince Puma fan between the two of us. I mean, I have immense respect for the man, but I know you really get into his matches. What do you think now that we're really taking off with this whole Vampiro Puma thing? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I can't wait to see the first instance of whatever the new incarnation of Puma is in the temple, because we've seen him now and we haven't seen any kind of makeover or any kind of remake or gimmick change or anything like that. It still looks like Prince Puma, but I'm really curious what he's going to look like after Vampiro gets his hands on him.
I certainly agree. Again, one thing that I've been saying is whatever this new Puma is, I hope him and Johnny Mundo cross paths and they get to do it again, because you're talking about one of the best wrestlers in the world right now for my money. So good. And what I love about Prince Puma, again, and we've talked about this, he can be so expressive under the mask. And I loved his shock and surprise when he opened his eyes. That really made the cinematic for me alone. And then you see Vampiro just so casually come with me. And it's just oh, I'm just getting started with you. I love it. And I have to wonder, I mean, I'll ask you, because again, what I love about Lucha Underground is there's so many episodes, and Ultimate Lucha Trace is 4 parts this year. Do you think we're getting on a collision course here, Puma versus Pentagon Dark at Ultimate Lucha Trace, or do you think they're going to settle that beef long before that? Because Vampiro's probably going to stick Puma on Pentagon.
I think that's what Vampiro wants, but I don't know if it's actually going to happen. Yeah, it's probably going to happen. I don't think we're going to, it's going to happen, but I think it's going to be a longer drawn out thing where it'll happen one time and then we won't see it again for a few weeks, and then it'll happen again and it'll be greater and more epic than the last, and it'll just build and build and build, and maybe we might even get it at Ultima Lucha. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing with Lucha Underground and then their big, blow off Ultima Lucha. I never really like putting a card together, because feuds that you could be oh, that's totally going to Ultima Lucha, that could be resolved in 3 weeks, maybe a little bit more, maybe even a little less.
About Underground is that there are certain things that you could try and predict for the big show, but every week is a big show. So really, there's no reason for them to hold off an episode to show you something awesome when they could just put it on this week and let you have the awesome thing. Because that's what's so beautiful about the hour-long format with no pay-per-views. Like, the lack of pay-per-views means every episode's a pay-per-view and every episode's amazing, and that has held very true to this season.
Oh, certainly, because you figure what? This is only episode 13, correct? That we had
This
here.
is episode 13, yeah.
27 episodes left. Now, to the casual person that might think about this as like, any other kind of TV show, they think, oh, well, I mean, that's a good amount, but I guess not too much. But so much can happen in the Lucha Underground universe in 27 episodes. Like, everything can change. I mean, for all we know, and I'm not even kidding about this, whatever association that Puma and Vampiro have now could be dissolved by episode, say, 35 or something. Like it doesn't even have to
I was even going to say by episode 30 for all we know. Like, they move quick sometimes.
They do. They really do.
That's what's great about, that's another part that's about Lucha Underground that's great, though, is that they don't have to abide by a certain schedule. Like, if they want to have a literal 3-week feud between Cage and Chavo Guerrero Jr. just for the hell of it, they can do that. And they did that last season. I think, last season. And it ended up being a really solid feud. And it led to an amazing match between Cage and Matanza. Or they could stretch something out over the course of seasons. So the debut of Matanza, which literally was like, I think it was like a 45 episode build between the first mention of Matanza and his actual debut. So like they're they really don't give a shit sometimes. And it's the best kind of not giving a shit, because what they don't give a shit about is criticism, because they are just going to do what they think is best for the story. And if people don't like it, that's fine. But if people love it, which we usually do, then that's even better.
And I love that about them. I love their confidence. And I've said this since season 1, and it's a sentiment that echoes even truer to me today. I love that they put their balls on the table and they juggle multiple things at once, each just as compelling for a certain type of wrestling fan as the next thing. Now, me, I love all of it. I'm greedy and I'm gluttonous. I want to consume everything and, anything that I can that LU's putting out. But there are the things that I'm really more invested in from a personal point of view. I mean, obviously, Johnny Mundo is world champion. Cannot wait for next week, because I really do think we're going to see him. El Dragon Azteca Jr. choosing the path of vengeance. Excellent. Pentagon being taken out. Great. Son of Havoc. Where's he going to go? Because, I mean, I haven't forgotten that he was robbed of a world title match at Ultima Lucha Trace. Is he going to get back on track? So there's so much that I'm invested in, and they just have this confidence and this poise when presenting it all. They know the pace they want to go with certain stories and others, because you've got different paces. To your point, there could be like season-long arcs or things that are just resolved in a few episodes. It's crazy to me, but it's all done so well. And now Puma and Vampiro bringing it full circle. This being just another thread. I love it, because how is Pentagon gonna come back? And Vampiro, he was smiling seeing Pentagon so helpless and vulnerable, but he was probably thinking, well, I still have to get my piece. I'm not done with you yet. Just because other people made you suffer, that's quite distinct from me making you suffer. And now you see Puma, who we've grown to know as like this really strong, determined guy. I mean, again, in season 1, I mean, Conan originally took credit, but we later learned that it was Ray. Found him fighting for his life in the barrio, the last of his tribe. So Prince Puma is very warrior-esque in the sense that he is strong, he is proud, he is confident, and now he's under Vampiro's dominion. Like, that is such a radical shift. It's a very jarring shift, but it's one that I think evokes, I should say, a lot of intrigue. So I'm very curious how all these forces are going to come together. And Lucha Underground, again, for me, hit it out of the park this week. I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that wraps up Lucha Underground. So let's do some high spots and low shots for this. And because you went first for the last high spots and low shots, I'll actually change it up a little bit, and I'll go first this time. My low shot is the easiest pick of all, Pentagon Dark, because even though he won 2 great matches, he got obliterated in the arm area. He no longer has any. He's down to approximately 0.0 arms, and I don't really think he's going to have a very enjoyable life until that changes.
Yeah, it's quite apropos that a guy that dabbles and really became a master of the dark arts had to pay the ultimate price for that art. because you can make sacrifices with these arms, but it is your arms that will be the ultimate sacrifice. And yeah, I completely agree with you. Pentagon Dark, definitely a low shot. Really can't argue with that at all, but I guess I'll try. My low shot, you know what? I'm going to be a bit creative here. My low shot is Dario Cueto, actually, because between getting shoved in Aztec Warfare 3 and now Matanza protesting against his brother and saying what he wants and asserting his will, Dario Cueto may finally have that big problem on his hands that you and I have been talking about, and that's that he can no longer control Matanza. And Pentagon may be a low shot short term, and I completely agree with your assessment, but long term, I think Cueto's got a lot of sleepless nights ahead, so I'm going to be preemptive and make him my low shot.
Huh. You know, I really struggle to argue with that. So I'm just going to move right on along. My high spot. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go a little bit off kilter here. And I'm going to say that my high spot is Vampiro because he had one hell of a night. He got to watch. He even warned him about it. First segment of the night, he says, you know, I'm going to get revenge on you. And I'm going to really, I don't even know if he said this part, but he had to be thinking, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of watching you get the shit kicked out of you tonight. And he did. And he was borderline orgasmic. And he got to see his former disciple who turned on him get both of his arms broken. And then he got to revive Puma, which means that Puma literally owes his life to him. So just so much going in favor of Vampiro tonight.
Dude, if you couldn't argue with Cueto being my low shot, I sure as fuck can't argue with Vampiro being your high spot. My honorary high spot, though, more jokingly, Stardom Pro Wrestling, because what great advertising you got on this episode. You love the Black Lotus Triad? Get a subscription with us. And in all sincerity, I am so happy for that promotion, that it worked out so well for them, and that I actually did hear people saying, I've got to get a subscription now. So clearly, on some level, it was a success. But my true honorary high spot, I'm going to say El Dragon Azteca Jr., because he had a very interesting plot point tonight, you know, breaking Pentagon Dark's other arm and choosing vengeance, which to me, like, we've always thought highly of El Dragon Azteca Jr. from an in-ring standpoint because he's just so freaking good. And now from a character standpoint that he could have these motivations, that just makes him more compelling. So that's my honorary high spot. However, because you graciously went off kilter, I've got to give this woman credit. Hitokiri is going to be my true official high spot. Because not only in a kayfabe sense did she go and beat Pentagon Dark, granted after 2 preceding bouts, so he was exhausted, but still she picked up the win for the team. In a non-kayfabe sense, she went out there and she made her mark. Like, women like her, really I should say performers like her in general, because it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman when you have a performance like that. Performers like her, when they go out and they have a night like she had last night, I live for that shit, dude. I love that shit. She went out there and she said, I've got this one chance to make everybody remember me, and I'm going to take it. And everybody was talking about her in my neck of the woods on Twitter. Like, everybody was like, she was incredible. And all deserved. All deserved. I love when performers can have brilliant nights like that. Easily. Hitokiri is my high spot. Probably the most resounding high spot of our set here. Because, yeah, she killed it.
Yeah, she was great. All right, well, that wraps up our Lucha Underground review, John. So if you want to take us into our next review, let's do it.
Let's get into our NXT review. And wait for it. Bam! Change to the NXT background so you know we're doing it for realsies. NXT tonight, I gotta tell you, it wasn't a bad show. I mean, again, as per usual, after Lucha, I'm just kind of like, okay, let's see what NXT can muster. And actually mustered a good bit. I actually like some of the things they did because you could tell like they were finally moving away a little bit from TakeOver Toronto. And now next week should be a new set of tapings because that's what I was hearing the spoilers were for. It was like the 7th to the 21st, I think, were the spoiler listings, which I avoided. Obviously, it's just I saw the dates. So next week should be interesting. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode for what it was. I didn't think it was bad by any means. What did you think?
It was all right. I mean, like you said, it wasn't bad. I wasn't offended by anything on this episode. But what I will say is that this is a very underwhelming episode. This was really as per usual, we are undergoing the post takeover lull that we always get on NXT. And I am really, really close to saying just straight up, anytime we have a takeover, we're going to take a month off of reviewing NXT because they basically take a month off of putting out compelling content.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. It always sucks when they get in that post takeover lull, because here's the thing. Anybody that's really talked to me at length or listened to these reviews at length should know that we both enjoy NXT. I'm quite fond of the product and certainly the talents, but when it hits those lulls of, okay, we just got to take over or done a takeover, so let's do more place setting, let's be nice and slow. And I'm like, oh God, I hate when they can't maintain a pace or at least change a pace in a way that feels more natural and not as jarring. And NXT really hasn't gotten that down either. So I definitely agree with
figured out how to build to a live special like ace. They're amazing at it, but they haven't figured out how to wind back down from a live special yet.
And I honestly, Ashton, I couldn't have said it better. So with that said, I guess let's get right into our review.
It's funny, dude, because I only have literally 5 lines in my notes tonight because really there were only 5 segments that happened tonight. I'm going to just go over them in order, and then we can talk about each one individually. So the first thing we got was Asuka versus Nicole Matthews. It was our first match of the night. And then we got a Dasha Fuentes interview with Samoa Joe that Ty Dillinger showed up for. And then we got a No Way Jose versus Eric Young match. And then Dasha Fuentes interviewed Ty Dillinger. And then when our main event of the evening was Joe versus Dillinger. That was the entire episode. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and really you could even tell by the timestamp, because most NXT episodes are like 52 or 57 minutes. This is only a 47-minute episode, so pretty much on par with an LU episode, more or less, just a little bit longer. And yeah, I found that quite surprising. But I guess let's just get right into it, because you said Asuka versus Nicole Matthews is the first thing we got. And I mean, yeah, eat, sleep, destroy, repeat if you're Asuka.
And this was a super cold open, too. We opened with entrance music. Like, that never happens in NXT or anywhere else in WWE. But alas, here we are. Asuka coming out and just obliterating this poor Nicole Matthews. And I know I shouldn't say I know. I believe she is a Canadian wrestler and a pretty good one at that. But Asuka's Asuka, so Asuka gonna Asuka. And Asuka did Asuka, and she got Asuka.
Yeah, and like, here's the thing. I'm still in to the Asuka character, mainly because, and I will give NXT credit for this, they've had the sense to make her more heelish if she hasn't already full-blown turned. Because I know, like, some people, I don't want to put words in their mouth, so forgive me, but I believe Paul said that, like, he was kind of over, it was either him or Cliff, with Asuka just steamrolling everybody.
And that's Paul, not Greg.
Yeah, I'm trying to respect his boundaries as well as Cliff's shoulder, so I'm juggling a lot right now. But one of them said,
"Oh no, what happened to Cliff's shoulder? I thought he was at 98%."
Well, bagging turkeys for urchins brought him down to 91%. I think something else really didn't help matters either. But Chris Wolf is trying to hook him up, I guess, with child meat, which should bring it up considerably. So, we'll have a full. We'll have a full-blown status report probably later. Cliff's good for it, so he'll probably update us when he's ready. But yeah,
by child meat, do you just mean stem cells?
No, I mean we're going to probably cannibalize children. I probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but there are intentions, and I think it'll bring Cliff's shoulder up to at least 97%. But I'm not a doctor, so yeah.
That doesn't seem worth it at all. That's less than a 10% improvement. What the shit?
Well, I don't know. Less children on the planet, win-win. I don't know. But regardless,
you've got a point there. I'll give you that one.
Yes, indeed. I know they're like, oh, I'm getting kind of tired of the shtick. Now, I want to know how you feel about that in a second. But speaking for myself personally, I'm not necessarily tired of it because she's having this transition. Because she's a heel now, I feel like it's not just a streak simply for the sake of like Vince or anybody's hard on for streaks. It's a streak that when it's broken, it's going to make a babyface look magnificent. So I'm okay with it, and I'm down for the ride. What do you feel about it? I mean, where do you come down on the debate that I see kind of happening?
I've kind of gotten apathetic towards it. I still like Asuka as a worker, but the fact that she just has no one to work with has really lowered my interest in her and really the entire NXT women's division outside of Billie Kay and Peyton Royce as a whole, and Ember Moon. Those three are like the only 3 parts of the NXT Women's Division that I care about. And normally you would be thinking like, oh, well, that's 3 people that you care about in a division that only has like 10 people in it. So that's not too bad. But the problem is then when you realize that the main title is on somebody that I don't care about, and that of the 3 people I do care about, 2 of them are probably not going to get anywhere near the main title, and the third one probably isn't going to get anywhere near the main title for a few months. So like it's like my interest in the championship, the women's championship in NXT, is just bare minimum right now. Like just whatever, Asuka's going to destroy people. I don't even care anymore. Just give me Ember Moon, please.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been there for a while. I find it so funny that when NXT commentary is like, or Corey Graves, he said tonight after an Asuka segment we got later, which we'll get to. He's like, she's right, Tom. There's nobody left. You have both your gift and your curse at the same time. It's a gift because whenever a babyface steps up to prove that's not the case, they're going to come off as $1 million. It's a curse because in a way it is kind of true, because you can see NXT now really is taking time to build a new generation up, which is exciting to watch. But again, we go back to an older dichotomy that you and I have talked about before, and I don't want to revisit that territory here. I just want to point it out. Is NXT developmental, or is it more than developmental? Because Triple H has come out and said it is more, but then you've got this rebuilding going on of an entire division, which seems very developmental-esque. So
to me, really, I've kind of compartmentalized how I look at NXT. I see NXT as sort of 2 different entities. The touring brand of NXT, it's, you know what? Let me make it as simple as possible. You've got the NXT A team and the NXT B team. And the A team is the touring brand with Nakamura and Joe and Rude and all of those top guys on it. And the B team is the developmental part. That's where you've got like your Liv Morgans and your Riddick Mosses. And I think that they should definitely acknowledge that like the A team is the touring brand, the A team is the brand that is on television, the A team is the brand that does the live specials. That's not developmental anymore. So
right.
if somebody starts showing up on NXT TV that feels very incomplete or lackluster, we should really reserve the right to criticize that, whether we're criticizing the performer or the company for putting the performer in that position. Really a B team that they should still be on. And this kind of applies to like a Dana Brooke, where she should not have gotten on NXT TV as quickly as she did. And if she hadn't gotten on NXT TV as quickly as she did, she wouldn't have teamed up with Emma, who turns literally everything into gold. And then she wouldn't have been called up for Emma on the main roster, thinking that they could create that same gold on the main roster. And then Emma gets hurt and Dana's still on the main roster, and it makes no sense whatsoever. So just being able to identify who is TV ready and who isn't would make massive improvements for the NXT product. And that is where the divide is between what's developmental and what isn't.
Yeah. Really nothing I can add to that, man. Asuka again gets another easy victory after the Asuka lock, and I think we can move on.
Okay. So up next, we had the interview with Dasha Fuentes talking to Samoa Joe. And Samoa Joe has a match with Shinsuke Nakamura in a couple days, actually. It's technically, I think it's on Friday in Japan, but it's Saturday morning here in the US, I believe. I could be getting that mixed up, but it's in a couple days, and I think it might actually be airing on the network. If not, they will use the footage that they take from that match on the NXT TV episode that we get next week.
Right.
So that match is happening in Japan, in Osaka, Japan, I believe it is. Really, that's all that they talk about. But then Ty Dillinger shows up and he says, I could give you 10 reasons why you should have a match with me tonight, but I'm only going to need to give you one. And he slaps Joe in the face and walks away.
Yeah, this was great by Dillinger, because he's pretty much saying, like, oh, you are the man, and I want to prove myself against the man. I want to prove that I belong at the main event level. And Joe initially brushes him off. He's like, Dillinger, you're a joke. I mean, you already lost to TakeOver Toronto. You know, what would losing to me prove? And that's when Dillinger does, well, I could give you 10 good reasons why you should face me, but you only need one. And then he does the slap. And then Joe's face is just like, Dillinger, you're not walking out of here tonight. I fucking love Samoa Joe. Oh my God. He was fantastic tonight, as was Dillinger, but we'll get to that later. Great segment, dude. Really enjoyed this.
Yeah. So then we get our second match of the night, which is Eric Young versus No Way Jose. And this is a solid match, nothing really special. At one point, No Way Jose hit Eric Young with a pop-up sort of like big swing punch to the face. And I believe it was Nikki Cross who was distracting the referee while No Way Jose went for the pin. It would have been a 3 count, but the distraction prevented the referee from counting it in time. And that led to Eric Young being able to get that wheelbarrow neck breaker that he's been using for the 3 count and the win. And then because NXT thinks that Nikki Cross looking like a person who doesn't know how to be crazy, pretending to be crazy is a good thing, she does that. And she has to be like carried away by Sawyer Fulton. And eventually she kind of breaks free on the way up the ramp and gets back into the ring and does a missile drop kick to the back of No Way Jose's head.
I wanted to ask you something, Ashton, to kind of really get the ball rolling on this segment here. Because I saw you tweet out that you feel personally like you're already over Sanity, and I wanted to see if you wouldn't mind explaining like why you feel that is, that you're already like feeling over them. Because I don't necessarily disagree. I just want to know your motivations and like where you're coming from.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to put up a spoiler warning right now. This is a spoiler for something that occurred at the NXT tapings yesterday. So for those of you that do not want to be spoiled, I'm going to do a countdown from 3 to 1, and then I'm going to say go. And when I say go, all you have to do is hit the letter L on your keyboard while your mouse is focused on the video. Because if you have like your mouse cursor clicked on the chat to say something in the chat, you'll just type the letter L. So make sure that you're actually focused on the video so that we can do this process properly. 3, 2, 1, hit the letter L. That's skip 10 seconds forward, and Sawyer Fulton is leaving the group.
What? Why?
I don't know why, but I saw it on the NXT spoilers, and it really hurt the group, in my opinion, and people who hit L are probably back to where we were, or back to hearing us talk now, so we can't talk about actual spoilers anymore. But I literally just feel distraught and upset and annoyed by the decision that was in the spoilers. And I felt already like the worst part of Sanity was Nikki Cross, and that isn't changing, whereas something else in the group is changing, and I'm not a fan of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, man, I can pick up what you're laying down there. Me, I do love Sanity, and given this change, I'm trying very hard not to, step on any minds, but given the change that you just talked about, that I'm not going to repeat here, that does kind of ruffle my feathers as well. I still think I'm going to try and march forward with them. I'll see. It'll be a touch and go thing, like I'm sure a lot of things are with us that WWE puts forward. But yeah, I mean, I certainly see where you're coming from. I think that's a huge blow, what you told me. As far as my feelings on the match goes, because I just wanted your thoughts on, where that tweet came from. I found it very interesting. It wasn't bad. I mean, Eric Young has always been a solid worker, and I'm happy to see him get this platform to show what he can do. And I do love his heel work, which is amazing, because his fame in TNA to me has always been him being like that jokey kind of comedic babyface. But I feel like, when he's a heel and he's given this kind of material, he just runs away with it. Nikki Cross, man, again, like, I hate to even be critical because I think she's so good on every other front. But yeah, I'm with you. It's just like the biting the ropes and the scratching the face. Like, you don't have to try so hard, Nikki. Like, even her, honestly, even if it was her just smiling at the destruction that everybody else did and maybe just like in a little bit, that would be enough. She doesn't have to do all of this. It really is one case where I think you're trying to do too much. You're overexerting yourself. If you pull back, That's
It's
going to do
kind of
so much
what
more.
I've been saying. It's a normal person trying to look and act crazy who's never seen what an actual crazy person looks like before.
Right. Um,
Like, if you
I,
want crazy, go watch last week's episode of Lucha Underground with the Rabbit Tribe. That is crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I loved what they did. I thought that was amazing, and I was really into it. Yeah, like that to me was believable. But then you have Nikki Cross, where again, like I don't want people to think that we're not fans of hers. We are like fans of her. I think she's great in ring. I hope that one day she becomes an NXT Women's Champion, but it's got to be better than what she is currently. And again, I'm not even asking that much, and I know you aren't either. Just dial it back a bit. It's not even doing more, it's doing less. It's literally a subtraction, not an addition. And I still hope she does it, because, man, if she does, she instantly, to me and for me, becomes one of the most compelling characters on the roster. Like, it'll be Ember Moon and then her, if she could just work on that little thing. And it is frustrating, but yeah, I'm just kind of rolling my eyes and like, okay, we're doing it. And I'm still waiting for them to take off. Like, I mean, I love No Way Jose, but I don't know. I kind of wish the presentation of Sanity was a bit different, and they already weren't doing stuff like this right away. I really can't articulate it. Maybe I thought they were going to run roughshod a little bit more, just destroy people before being in formal matches that require distractions already. But I mean, I do love the group. I love what they're doing, and we'll just see when these changes are in effect how I feel about them then. But good outing.
My whole thing is I like the idea of the group more than I like the execution of the group.
You know what? I think you're pretty close to my sentiments, because I am liking the actual group, but I will agree with you. I found the idea of it far more attractive, so I can definitely pick up what you're laying down right there for sure.
And you know what? Just because I know he'll appreciate this, I do think that Crazy Mary Dobson would have been a better fit for the female Insanity than Nikki Cross. And that's not me saying she's a better performer than Nikki. That's me saying that she would have done better in this specific role than Nikki, because I like Nikki Cross as a performer quite a bit. I think she's actually a really talented performer, and she can talk, and then she's got pretty much everything you want except for, I guess, height, because she's basically 5 foot from nothing. But yeah, she's a really good performer. She just can't do crazy for shit.
Yeah. And that really is just it. And you know what? That's fine. There's always going to be one character that I think every performer just can't do. For example, I would never expect JBL to be a sociable, personable, kind person. Like, he's always just going to be, to me, probably because of his real life personality, just an asshole, just a very rich asshole. Like, I could never buy him as a nice guy. He's always going to have those rough edges to him. Nikki Cross, to us anyway, and I know it's kind of a divisive issue, can't do crazy. And you know what? That's fine, because maybe one day she'll have a character shift and then we can really get into her. Like, who she was when she did that big 6-woman tag match, that's a Nikki Cross that I think I could get behind and stay behind while she's really ascending the ranks.
Well, and I mean, she had sort of a spoiled brat character on the indies that she worked really well. I thought she was great with that.
Right.
She's like this pocket rocket. She's kind of, honestly, maybe this is why they didn't do it, because it's kind of like what Alexa Bliss is trying to do on SmackDown right now, where she has this sense of entitlement, and if she doesn't get her way, she throws a temper tantrum and that kind of stuff. So yeah, like she's perfectly capable of playing a role, but crazy is not one that she's good at.
Precisely. And I think on that note, we can move on to our next segment. So what do we got?
Another interview, this time with Ty Dillinger, and I really disliked this because he basically said, if I can't beat Joe, maybe I don't belong in NXT, and nobody in their right mind thought he was going to beat Joe tonight. And then he didn't beat Joe tonight, and then you may as well just be saying, I'm going to retire now.
Dude, I gotta say, like, I can understand why you didn't like it, but I think even taking that into account, I did like this. Like, I thought Ty Dillinger, even in losing, it's been a tremendous time for him between Toronto, where he had a stellar opener with Rude, again in a losing effort, unfortunately, and then his work tonight. And me more than anybody, I've been calling for Joe and Dillinger to share a ring together. And I love the way they set it up. Like, honestly, I think it was actually better in reality than it was in my head, because I don't think I gave it as much thought in my head. But yeah, the promo, it's just him down on himself. We saw the seeds planted in Toronto after he lost to Rude, and he's like, oh, they haven't given up on me, so I can't give up on myself. And then he's like, well, if I'm not going to give up on myself, I'm going to go big. I'm going to go after the champion. And he's like, well, if I can't do this, if I can't be at the level that I think I should be at, that I know I can be at, then what's left for me here? And we're going to talk about the fallout, in a few moments, because, there's a lot I want to discuss with you. But yeah, I thought this was a great promo from Dillinger. He's just been killing it lately. I mean, he's always been good, don't get me wrong. But just lately, I've really been into his babyface work.
Oh, he's always been good, said the guy who laughed at Gavin Spears when he said that he was the crown jewel of the new Superstar Initiative.
Hey, wasn't there a time you didn't even know who the hell Gavin Spears was? Get off my dick, bruh. Like,
I didn't watch the original ECW. How would I have?
Well, then don't come into my house trucking mud, bitch. But yeah, don't get me wrong. I always enjoy pulling my pants down by my ankles and shitting on Ty Dillinger, much like Sami Zayn. But I respect Sami Zayn, and I too respect Ty Dillinger. And I'll tell everybody what I told you. I read a great article taking portions of a Cody Rhodes interview that Cody Rhodes did recently, and Ty Dillinger came up, and there's another guy that loves Ty Dillinger and even said his father, Dusty Rhodes, he would always put in his notes, don't know what to improve, just bring him up to the main roster. So Dusty Rhodes was not only a huge Ty Dillinger supporter, he was one of those guys that thought Dillinger had no flaws to speak of and could just go up to the main roster and start working right away. So yeah. Yep. Come on, NXT. Get your shit together.
Who else was one of those universally praised guys in NXT that everyone loved and thought should be like a big star one day?
I was going to make a guess, but who is it?
Who was your guess going to be?
I was going to say Daniel Bryan, because that's also a name I mentioned to you in that interview. That Daniel Bryan was another name that Dusty Rhodes was like.
He was never in this version of NXT.
Not this version of NXT, no, but go ahead. Who was your name?
Tyler Breeze.
Tyler Britt, and that makes all the sense in the world. And now he's a member of the Fashion Police, so we all come full circle.
I mean, it is a pretty amazing group, you've got to admit.
Yeah, until he gets kicked in the face for all those citations he's handing out, not really watching himself. So good stuff, though. Great promo from Dillinger. Not much more I could say than that.
Okay. So then we get into our main event, Samoa Joe versus Ty Dillinger. And this was a really, really good match if you are a fan of David versus Goliath stories, in which the David gets really close to winning, but you have in the back of your mind the entire time that David's still going to get his ass kicked.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it in a way less poetically than you did. If you're a fan of Ty Dillinger just being reminded of his place and just getting his ass beat, this is the match for you. Because, I mean, Ty Dillinger tried to go for the tiebreaker, I believe, twice, and he got much closer the second time. But then Joe pushed him off, and then Ty's like, I'm going to charge in the corner and do something. And how does Joe respond? Sit your ass down. Slams Ty with that corner Uranagi, and you could just, at the exact moment that Ty's back hits the canvas, you can also hear his dreams die. Because then Joe just, power bombs him. But wait, Ty kicks out. I still have life, Ottawa. I can still, oh God, no, crossface transition. Oh God, this hurts. But wait, I can still do it. I'm almost at the ropes. Oh, coquina clutch. Oh, it's over. And Joe was even like, go to sleep. Go to sleep. It's like when Peter stabbed Yogi Bear and he's just like, shh, 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 shh. That was Ty Dillinger with that coquina clutch.
Wasn't that in Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy?
No, that was an episode of Family Guy, because there was a cutaway where, he's like, oh, a picnic basket, boo-boo, huh? And then Peter just comes from behind, stabs him in the back, and covers his mouth, and then the shh, 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 shh. And then he looks at Boo-boo and he's like, tell your bear friends what you just saw. And yeah, that just made me think of Ty Dillinger and his haplessness and his patheticness and just, going to sleep, as Joe told him to do. So, but to Ty's credit, he didn't tap out. He just passed out. You slept on the most important match of your career, Dillinger. I'd expect nothing less from you.
I've slept on the job before. It's pretty glorious.
I bet it is. But Joe, being an industrious and hardworking champion, unlike the rest of you slackers, gets the win. He's wide awake and eyes totally focused on Nakamura for this Saturday. So, good stuff.
Totally focused.
Totally focused. Absolutely.
That was the end of NXT, though.
Yes, it was. And now we'll do the final set of high spots, low shots. So now I'll go first. My low shot, Ty Dillinger. But this does lead me to our final point. Wow, that sigh. That had so much bitterness in it. I was going to ask you, because I saw a WWE.com exclusive where an interview like prompts Ty after his match, like, oh, you said if you lost, you felt like you really wouldn't fit in NXT, you know, like you were just done here. So what's up with that? And I was pretty much like, I don't know what to tell you, man. So I'm going to ask you, as the Ty Dillinger proponent, the guy that just has believed him in all the way, despite all of my mockery and everything. What do you think now of all of these, uppity tones like, oh, Ty Dillinger, number 10 entrant in the Royal Rumble? Do you think it's going to happen or not?
Nope.
I don't think so either. So we actually agree on that. I do think that a redemption story is in line for Ty Dillinger. That's what I think. You don't think that either. So
Nope.
What do you think is in store for Ty Dillinger?
Dolph Ziggler 2.0.
So you think he's going to get called up, but just immediately go in that Dolph Ziggler spot?
I don't even know if he's going to get called up.
So you just think he's going to do the Dolph Ziggler 2.0 in NXT?
Pretty much.
Wow, that's really a depressing prognosis.
Well, apparently I'm really good at picking out the Dolph Ziggler of our generation, because remember, I was a really hardcore fan of, you guessed it, Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, that is true. So is this just you kind of resigning yourself to the winds of fate, and whatever happens to Ty Dillinger and that carcass he calls a career is just going to happen?
I had an answer, but you just kind of beat me to it. No, I've resigned myself to the fact that whenever a guy is really, really good at making other people look amazing, that they're going to be asked to do that a lot more than they're going to be asked to be the one that looks amazing themselves. So Ziggler, kind of the same thing. And now Ty is doing the same thing.
God, your whole tone and just you describing it. Now I've got this imagery that almost makes me feel bad for Ty Dillinger. He comes to the curtain after a great match. Ty, you did excellent, man. I know. I can't wait to break through and get the main event. Main event? No. This is your life now. And then Ty is trying to suppress the horror from just consuming his face. And then he bumps shoulders with Dolph Ziggler. And he's just like, oh, hey, Ty, what'd they say? Well, they said that my career was just going to be making other people look really good. Don't worry, Ty. That's what I've been doing. And I turned out all right, right? And he just looks at Dolph. And then he can't suppress it anymore. Chavo! I mean, no!
Oh my god.
That is so
Hi! My name's Ty Dillinger.
Oh my god. I didn't think you'd do it, but whatever energy was left as we were this close to the finish line. And you're like, nope, I'm loading up the gun. I'm killing everybody. I'm killing this whole goddamn mood. Like, damn, man. No survivors. So yeah, Ty, that's what the big supporter of yours says about your career. That's just great. I mean, I thought I shit on you, but goddamn, because that's reality that you were spewing. That's even worse. So I guess now knowing that Ty really, I mean, he has a future, but it's quite dismal. My high spot.
Oh my god.
I almost want to make you my high spot.
I didn't even give my low shot. You're taking Ty Dillinger and my low shot in the same night?
I mean, I might as well. Do you even have anything left? But go ahead. I was
going to say my low shot's Nicole Matthews, but...
Oh, well, I mean, that makes total sense because, I mean, unlike Ty Dillinger, she was completely nameless and she'll remain nameless. Ty actually had something to lose and he lost it. So, I mean, yeah, they're both equally awful.
Yeah, totally.
But as far as my eyes spot, I almost want to make you my eyes spot because, god damn, that was just great what you just did. But you aren't on the show tonight, which is unfortunate for the product, but I digress.
What the hell were they thinking? Come on, WWE. I've been waiting. The contract is signed. I just need an official signature from someone in your offices, you pricks.
Yeah, I think you've been waiting just as long as Emelina has to debut. So my high
That's been
spot.
literally 2 months. I am literally keeping track because this past Raw was the 8th week that we've seen her vignettes.
Not only have you been keeping track, me and my friend Jackie, who everybody should follow at Name4Jackie, great women's wrestling resource.
I had a conversation with Jackie this morning. She's awesome.
She is, and you're all the better for it. And yeah, she was even keeping track. She's like 7 weeks, and she asked me, because for whatever reason, she enjoys my opinion on women, which I'm flattered by. She's like, is she ever going to debut? Is she going to debut before the end of the year? And then after 8 weeks, I'm like, well, you can count that as 8 weeks, bud, because it's not happening.
She's going to debut on the Christmas episode of Raw as one of Santa's elves.
Oh, God. And you know what? Like, you were saying that, and the sad thing is you're probably right. See, now this is you being right where I'm sad. I mean, Dillinger, I was just reveling in that shit. I almost wanted to get a tube sock for that shit. But Emelina, yeah, that's incredibly depressing. That's incredibly depressing. Because I was even thinking, oh, well, while, the ball drops, like, they could almost do something Chris Jericho-esque. Not nearly as hype, mind you, but just like, oh, well, I'm going to start 2017 off the right way. What better way to start off than with Emelina? But no, she'll just probably be a background character somewhere, and then we'll be like, oh, it's Emelina, and then, oh. So, yeah, you're probably right. God, where were we? Oh, yeah, my high spot. Did I ever formally pick a high spot? I know I joked about it making you. No, I didn't. My high spot is, God, that was some really good math. But my high spot is Samoa Joe, because he owns people, he ruins lives. Am I
on my Danger pain? Why don't you? Jesus.
Hey, am I saying anything wrong? Am I saying anything wrong right now? Because
my high spot, my low shot is going to be Ty Dillinger, and my high spot's going to be the guy that whipped his ass. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I thought we were a logical and coherent podcast, and from where I sat, that man beat Ty Dillinger's ass.
Emotional, damn it.
Oh
it's
my.
Sensitive.
Look, he was never going to do. God. He was never going to do anything.
Doing with my life.
Look, he was never going to do anything. You might as well have backed a lobotomized horse. Kindly get over it. No, but in all seriousness.
2016 really has been the year of John, hasn't it?
It has, and what a better year to have. I mean, a year that's all about me. I really
Maybe 2017 will be the year of Ashton.
Maybe. I mean, that does sound rather sexy, so I can get behind it personally. I don't know if the universe will pan it out, but know that you have my full support, whatever that counts for. But yeah, Samoa Joe, to get back on track, he's definitely my high spot. I mean, he ruined a life on so many levels tonight. And, Nakamura wouldn't know what that feels like.
Ruin another life by secondhand life ruining abilities.
Exactly. He's just incredible. His devastation knows no bounds. I don't think I've ever been a bigger fan of Joe than I have been with his NXT run since he turned. And just that's a sit your ass down. That's pretty much what Ty's been told his entire career. You sucked as Gavin Spears, and you suck now. Give it up. You're worthless. So yeah, Joe is my high spot, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that. So unless you have any concluding remarks about tonight's NXT, I think I'll take it off.
F my shit up, fam.
Look, I love you, man, and I'm doing this because I know Paul is just like, oh, if you love me, you wouldn't hurt me, but I personally find that to be bullshit. I think we grow from being hurt by those we care about most. So when I stab you, it's out of love. At least that's my twisted logic. And no, I'm not getting help. So any concluding remarks about NXT?
We literally had a comment the other day suggesting that you get therapy. So
yeah, not gonna happen. Been there, done that, jackass. Yeah.
Do I have to pick a high spot? I mean,
well, you got to turn that frown upside down somehow, bud. Come on, champ. I know you have it in you.
All right, my high spot's going to be Nakamura because he gets a title shot this coming Saturday.
And dude, in all seriousness, I would not be shocked if he got the belt back. Because that's actually a smarter high spot than perhaps you realize, though I'm sure you do. Yeah, It's funny that it's funny that Joe was the first ever two-time NXT champion, because that's going to be like a stat that just is so quickly going to become moot, because then Nakamura is going to do it immediately, and then somebody else, I'm sure, a little while down the road will do the same thing. Because now that it's become commonplace, or now that it's already happened, I should say, nothing's going to stop it from becoming commonplace. So yeah, I'm actually picking Nakamura this Saturday. I definitely think he's going to get the belt back. Oh, Joe.
Right, well. It's been about 2 hours and 18 minutes that we've been doing this review, and I think it is time to call it a show.
I actually agree with you. We went pillar to post and back to pillar again. That is a rarity, my friend. So with that said, this has been 205 Live, Lucha Underground, and NXT. This has been TWitWoW. No matter what we're covering, we are the best.
Woo!
Woo, daddy! That's a podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment, subscribe, and like the video. If you rode with us this entire time, then I know you're bound to leave a like. Be sure to leave it, because YouTube, because they're a bunch of marks, and mainly Google is a mark, thinks, oh, you know,
Pricks.
Yeah, pricks times 2. You just got called pricks twice. Deal with it. Sorry. The more likes,
don't apologize. Why would you apologize to them? They deserve the double pricking.
Yeah. For once, me being a piece of shit actually makes sense. Yeah, fuck yourself, Google. Doubling down for the win. Yes.
Yeah. You prevented us from being able to live react to the first episode of 205 Live, and it was really popular. And then, the even more egregious offense, you prevented us from being able to live react to one of the best episodes of Lucha Underground of all time. How dare you?
I hope you never have another successful merger, Google. Ever.
Merger, aka buying the rest of a company's assets as they're about to die.
May your profits be as barren as the wives of your employees. Johnny
and also,
scumbag.
fuck capitalism.
Yeah, fuck capitalism in the ass. Barbed wire dildos for the win. Not that I know how to get them. Oh, fuck it. I do know how to get them. Meet me out back if you want any contacts. But with that said, leave a like. Okay? Because the more likes you leave, the more likely we are to be the top search result for 205 Live coverage, NXT reviews, and Lucha Underground. Yeah, you know something? I know Comcast always talks about their packages. We're the ones packing a package, all right? And it's pretty damn impressive if I do say so myself.
No one's got a more impressive package than Team TWitWoW.
Exactly. See, that's what I'm talking about right there. So leave a like if you're loving all of this amazing content. But that said, now I want to get into the plugs. First and foremost, Q&A. We do a Q&A the last Friday of every month. So this month, Q&A will be on the 30th. Yes, the last Q&A.
December 30th. And if you don't remember it by that, remember it as the eve of oh, God damn it. Now I messed it up. It's the day before New Year's Eve. So the eve of New Year's Eve.
Bro, that was an amazing recovery, if I do say so myself. I am so proud of you. But yes, December 30th. I know, right? Oh, you're so wonderful. But yeah, December 30th.
Oh, Jesus.
December 30th. We're going to be doing Q&A. I believe, partner, this is Q&A number 6, is it not? So Q&A number.
Hell if I know. I'll number it when I get around to making the background, which will be like 30 minutes before we go live.
Yeah, that's so true. But the only number that matters is the amount of questions that you guys submit. So, and you guys are always known to submit a lot. We already have a lot already, given some preliminary totals that Ashton's given me. But if you want to get in,
would you like to know what we're up to already?
Sure.
40.
Oh my Morgan Freeman. That is impressive. And if you guys want to get in on this sweet, hot Q&A action, you have multiple avenues you could go down. Yeah, damn right. I'm so like this.
Steamy.
you get an additional 5 minutes for every dollar. I'm sorry. Yeah, you have multiple avenues. I don't even know what's happening in this anymore, but you have multiple avenues to submit questions. You can comment on a YouTube video. You can go on Facebook, which, by the way, if you're going to check out the Facebook page, leave a like while you're doing that. Helps us out. Scratch our bag, we scratch yours. And you can also leave questions through Twitter.
Pretty good at delivering them.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they really are quite wonderful. Yeah, with Twitter, you can obviously tweet at both of us. I actually have a pinned tweet on my profile for you guys to submit questions so that I can be actually organized for once and not such a lazy bum. Or DMs. I love them as well because that keeps it nice and tidy. And you guys have up to 5 questions per Q&A. And they can be divvied up any which way you like. So they can, if you're Alex Foster, for instance, you can say, well, John doesn't matter. John doesn't have feelings. He could go eat shit and give all 5 to Ashton. Or, if you actually care about my feelings.
When did that happen?
I'm not projecting. I'm not projecting. Okay, maybe a little I'm projecting. But, that is one thing you could do if you're a certain feelings hurter. Oh, God, my wife. Or if you're actually
what is wrong with you,
dude? Things, okay, things. But no, seriously, Alex, I fucking love you, bro, and I hope you enjoyed this more creative shout out that we give here. Or you can give all 5 to me and none to Ashton, but again, nobody likes a feelings hurter. Or to make everybody involved, you could do all 5 for the both of us. So any which way you want to divvy up questions. I mean, I've even gotten unique Johnny Scumbag questions, which thanks for feeding the worst aspects of myself. You guys are the best enablers ever. That's your prerogative. Absolutely. I know, right? And now the second thing I want to...
They don't even realize what they're doing. Or they do, and they actually don't like you.
And thanks, Cliff, for telling me that I can pin your tweet down. I'll remember that while I'm slowly backpedaling towards the phone. But yeah, the second thing, and it's funny,
I'm calling 911 in case you didn't pick that up.
Hey, don't spoilers. But the second thing I want to plug
in this review, we might as well go all the way.
Well, I'm glad to see you're committed to something, given that other people call you handsome. But no.
Oh my God. I think nobody's ever called you before. What about when you posted pictures of yourself on Twitter in your Johnny Mundo shirt and you got all those comments about how sexy you are?
How long did you know? No, I have to plug things, okay?
What?
This is not the time. But okay, second thing I want to plug, the Patreon. Now, if you think things are crazy right now, we do Patreon requested reviews. I would go on the Patreon.
We got 2 this month. We're doing 2 this month. Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even know. I knew about 1.
Well, maybe I should ask, can you handle this?
Can you handle this? Ow! So, what do we got?
We've got the final 3 matches of New Japan's, I believe it was King of Wrestling pay-per-view. It's either King of Wrestling or Power Struggle. I'll have to go back and look again. But that's an hour and 40 minutes or so, and we're live reacting to that, I believe. And then we've got a full-blown review to do, not live reactions, just the review, of Halloween Havoc 1997.
That's great. Yeah, I knew about Halloween Havoc. I did not know about the live reactions we have on sets. That's great. I'm excited for that. And yeah, guys, that's the stuff you can get in on. We can do reviews of shows, live reactions to shows, or both.
I know we have someone else. Specifically, we were talking about it earlier. Jackie is considering donating to get us to watch Shine. I believe it was 34. So that's one more show that we might be doing. But you guys, I think you're underestimating your ability here because you have power over us in this situation. You can make us review or live react to any show you want. So if there is, what's your favorite wrestling show of all time? If it hasn't happened in the last 2.5 years, we probably haven't put out a video on it. So, take advantage of that.
Absolutely, guys. Let your imaginations run wild. And again, as I always say, if you want a template for the kind of quality we put out, with the Patreon reviews, which, let's be honest, isn't different at all from our regular content. But I mean, Survivor Series 2002 was our first Patreon requested review. And that will probably go down as one of my favorite commentaries that TWitWoW has done as a collective. Like, we had so much fun on that one. And I'm thinking we're going to have a lot of fun with it. What are you snickering about, mister?
We need to start dragging this out as much as possible because Paul William Gregory is staying awake just for us.
Please finish the show. I'm dying here. Paul, I am so sorry. I was not laughing at you. I was laughing at the sentiment.
No, he totally was.
Yeah, it's probably the same thing. And yeah, I mean, just great. So, got those reviews. And Jackie, if you're listening to this, and I'm gonna, tweet at her that we did, like, give her a mention and everything. If you are contemplating it, I would do it because I would love to do a Shine review, and it'd be great to have your support. So I think it could be a win-win for everybody. So I really hope you consider it, and when you're ready to do it, because I think these are a lot of fun and a great opportunity for our fans to engage us more. So donate to the Patreon. And now, for Paul's sake, I'm gonna take us home, guys. We will see you again.
You forgot to plug the shirt.
I didn't actually. I was going to ask you about that because are any shirts still selling? Because I didn't know which ones were on clocks and which ones weren't. Like, are the I'm a TWitWoW guy and girl ones still selling? Because
those are the ones that are still on sale. And here's the beautiful thing. Those shirts are on sale until December 15th. And the reason that's important is because December 15th is the last day that you can order a shirt from Teespring on the least expensive shipping available and still get it by Christmas morning. Boom.
Yeah, there you go. And guys, he just said it. Christmas. If you can't think of anything better to get a friend or a family member, you know what you can give them? The gift that keeps on.
Or to get yourself. Hello, it's Christmas. Treat yourself.
Exactly, because I've always believed
the entire holiday revolves around corporatism, capitalism, and being a selfish prick.
Exactly. So kick a homeless person in the nuts and buy yourself a t-shirt, damn it. So yeah, get your I'm a TWitWoW guy t-shirt if you're a guy, or for our female friends, and I'm looking at you, Ella and Jackie, or at least I'm hoping you're hearing this, there's a shirt
and
for you
Kaya, and Thunder Rosa, and Evilise, and Sexy Star, all the Lucha Underground women that have ever acknowledged our existence need to buy I'm a TWitWoW girl shirt as well.
Exactly. Or as I was saying earlier, if you don't just want to get one for yourself and you're like, man, these shirts are amazing and the fabric is top notch, I want to do this for other people. You know what the gift is that keeps on giving? Education. Because you can educate your family and friends on the best podcast in the history of human existence. And they could open the gift and be like, what's TWitWoW? Well, you need to be watching and quit being a dumb bitch. And then you slap them for good measure. But not really, because I don't want to get sued. So yeah,
no, you can slap them, and then you can pull up the I'm a TWitWoW guy t-shirt to reveal the soon-to-be-made Scum Squad t-shirt.
Yes, exactly. And believe me, I am contemplating ideas. In fact, when we go off there, I'm probably going to go over with Ashton some of the ideas that I've had for a Scum Squad t-shirt, because I have a feeling if you guys are as supportive of it as you claim to be, could be the hottest selling TWitWoW t-shirt of all time. I'm really excited about a Scum Squad t-shirt. So yeah, not only would that smack some sense to them literally, but it would foreshadow an amazing shirt coming with the Scum Squad. So yeah, it just works on all fronts. Get the t-shirts. And now, because Paul's already dead, and I'm just going to round it out anyway, we will see you again tomorrow, actually, for TLC preview and predictions. Damn, you put your back into that shit. And then Sunday, it's going to be TLC live reactions, where we get to see Dean Ambrose once again fail, possibly maybe, to capture the WWE Championship. Followed up by, gotta keep it.
Oh, no, not possibly maybe. It's happening. He's failing hard.
Hey, I was trying to. I was trying to hype the product, our product. And then after that, we'll do our TLC review. I don't know what's happened anymore, but you guys know what's coming. I hope you enjoyed the ride. Paul, I am so sorry. I hope that my snickerdoodles that I'm going to bake for you.
I can't hear you anymore, John. Dead people can't hear.
Well, then I guess I'll just have all the snickerdoodles for myself then. So with that said, guys, we hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you tomorrow for preview predictions. Until then, tune in and peace out.